Hey guys, welcome to a new video. Like, comment and subscribe if you enjoy. Without any further interruptions, enjoy the What If. Chapter 11 Yakumo, Uzumaki Naruto and Yuhi Kurenai listened calmly as the Hokage gave them the summary of what happened. Kurenai, I had received a report from the team responsible for Yakumo's safety in Satomi Hill that Yakumo has been quite unstable for some time now. Usually, when that happens, they would handle it with sleeping agents, but even that has proven to be useless. Knowing about your mission, I had ordered the Anbu team back and called for you here. I'm sure that your expertise in this manner would be able to handle it, plus based on your previous assignment, you'd know how best to handle her case, I assume. One of the Anbu reports even singled that the Kurama clan might be involved in this. That moment, a silent conversation continued between the Hokage and Kurenai that Naruto was clueless about. All he could see and perceive was Kurenai's tense shoulders, narrow lips and narrow eyebrows. Hokage-sama, I understand you calling me, but why is Naruto here? This is my responsibility, so I alone should proceed. Naruto looked at her in surprise while the Hokage simply puffed the pipe in his mouth with eyes betraying nothing. Kurenai had a stoic expression on her face, and normally she would not act this rashly towards a fellow genjutsu user and perhaps one who could have a bright future as Konoha's next generation of finest. Naruto selfishly wished to tag along, though as he thought about it, this Yakumo girl must have been a sore spot for the Junin sensei, so he quietly understood and stood there, waiting for the Hokage's order. The Hokage stood there observing both the Junin and the genin. He knew what happened to Yakumo and Kurenai, so he understood her position in all of this. As he observed Naruto, though, the Hokage was surprised to see the boy as composed as he was, after being diminished by a senior officer. Naruto-kun, what are your thoughts about this? If he was surprised to even have a say in this manner, Naruto wasn't showing it. Hiruzen chuckled as Naruto's eyes went from Hiruzen to Kurenai and then to Hiruzen once more. Well, I guess Kurenai-sensei knows better, and if she believes that I would get in her way, then I guess it's best if I don't go. The Junin couldn't help but flinch in slight shame at his response, but it lasted less than a second. Though, I would want to help if I could. Hiruzen smirked at that, before Naruto bowed to Kurenai. He flinched slightly at the harsh glare she was directing his way, but he at least tried to explain. I could see how tense you became as Hokage-sama explained the situation, and you've been quite helpful to me. The least I could do is help you in return. Kurenai looked stern at the blonde genin for a good while and then she sighed in dismay. Naruto's shoulders relaxed as he saw a content smile on her face. I didn't know you're so stubborn, Naruto-kun. Naruto simply nodded at the sensei's claim, remembering the same comment from the Nadaime Hokage when Naruto sometimes trained past exhaustion. Hiruzen allowed a smile as he observed the scenery. Okay then, you can tag along, though if Sandaime Hokage is certain, then our enemies are members of the Kurama clan, not to mention Yakumo herself. They are experts in using genjutsu as their main weapon. I promise I won't let you down, sensei. Kurenai just smiled at the confidence exuding from the genin. She, then, turned to the Hokage who puffed some smoke, before addressing the duo. Then, Yuhi Kurenai and Uzumaki Naruto, I'm issuing you 2 AB-ranked mission with the objective of subduing Kurama Yakumo using all means necessary. Top of the Hokage's building Naruto and Kurenai had shunshined outside the Hokage's office and appeared on the building's rooftop. It was a night of full moon tonight as their hair danced to the gentle wind of fall. Kurenai, Naruto could tell, was silent as she looked towards the location of the Satomi Hill mansion. He observed as her mangled brunette hair dangled freely, while her eyes remained its steel-like quality of a professional. Right there, Naruto could see the quality of a Junin. He had seen it in Kakashi and Asuma a couple of times and it made his chest tingle in excitement to be able to witness it firsthand. He yearned to participate in more assignments like these in the future with prominent shinobi and kunoichi just like Kurenai-sensei. Still, Naruto couldn't help but notice with a dread how Kurenai's hand clenched every now and then. That tension that he had seen in the Hokage's office came full force and he couldn't help but worry. Kurenai-sensei, is there something wrong? The Junin turned to her genin subordinate for this mission in slight surprise, not realizing that she was telegraphing her tension. I guess that's no harm in telling you, since you are tagging along Naruto, though this is considered a top priority secret known only to me and the Hokage, understood. She then turned to him and placed her right hand on her waist. You remember me saying that this is my responsibility, right? He nodded and she continued. A couple years ago, the Sandaime Hokage had entrusted Kurama Yakumo to me as her tutor in the shinobi arts. Being a member of the Kurama clan, it was a given that she would be at least proficient in the art. However, I later realized that she was too good, far too good to be considered a prodigy. So I one time checked to see deep within her mind. Once inside, it's when I saw it. A demonic creature with Oni mask and a female dress, a sensitive and malicious creature born from Yakumo's mind, due to her story. Naruto choked at that as Kurenai continued. The image of the Kyuubi no Yoko instantly appeared in the genin's mind. In the end, it fell onto me to stop that creature from manifesting and Sandaime ordered me to seal it permanently, or so I thought. Suddenly, the floor looked quite a sight as Kurenai found herself doubting herself. So you think that this demon is trying to take over once more? Kurenai just answered that with a yes, and Naruto continued. What happened to her, sensei? Kurenai released a sad sigh but held nothing from her mission partner. Although she was considered a prodigy in the art, Yakumo was born with a frail composition. She was incapable of performing the other physical aspects of a shinobi life. So, her father at the time requested the Hokage for a special tutor, so the Hokage assigned me. I remembered that she so desperately wanted to become a kunoichi despite her shortcomings, hoping to focus only in her genjutsu ability. I tried to dissuade her from the ninja way of life. At the time, she just couldn't perform to at least the standard levels, so I refused to train her. At the time, I thought my decision was right, but looking at today, I found that I could have at least tried more. Yakumo, though, persisted despite her depression at the high expectations her family had put her through. Then, the incident occurred. What happened? One day the members of the Kurama clan ran to check on an incident at the clan's main residence, only to see the building burning and Yakumo just standing outside the house, petrified. Later, we found out that my sealing was ineffective and that this monster inside her caused the fire. So, the Sandaime had no other choice other than that intern her in a facility and assigned a team to watch her, monitor her mental health. Of course, Yakumo has no knowledge of what happened as she went catatonic after the event. Naruto could see how saddened Kurenai became and noticed how much she cared about Yakumo to go to such lengths to even blame herself for this. I see. Well, why do you blame yourself for this, sensei? Sounds like you did everything you could do. True, that Naruto would push forward just as Yakumo did if someone said he couldn't do something, but Kurenai taking responsibility for this was wrong. Sandaime gave me a mission and I failed, but more than that, I failed with Yakumo. It took me quite some time to get over what happened. Still today, I don't know why Hokage-sama entrusted me with a genin team. Now, that gave Naruto pause as he wondered the reason behind such negativity. The genin wasn't experienced enough to empathize with her plight. He heard from both Asuma and Kakashi that not all missions will end on a positive note. There would be times when the team arrived too late, there would be times when the shinobi moved too slow to stop someone from dying. There would be times when the client withheld key information that proved the difference between living and dying. As such, simplistically and naively stating that she was wrong would be the same as not acknowledging the possibility of failure and regrets. I guess there's time then for us to remedy whatever you feel you failed, right, Kurenai-sensei? The Junin looked at the genin for a while, before nodding in content. Despite the short amount of time she had interacted with him, Naruto managed to impress her, not only with his surprising well-rounded shinobi ability, but also with his maturity. Yeah, I guess we do. Satomi Hill Forest . It took some time for Kurenai and Naruto to cross the village and then embark through the forest that would lead them towards the Satomi Hill safe house where their target was currently located. The eerie night and gentle wind did little to ease the duo. To a genjutsu user, such as the enemies they would face in no time, this settlement was less like a quiet forest and more like a bear trap waiting to be activated. Despite the members of the Kurama clan being composed of Chunin mostly, none of them could be underestimated. Both Kurenai and Naruto flared their chakra constantly so as to not be caught underhanded. They were also on the lookout for hidden traps that were more easily hidden at night. Kurenai could certainly attest to the genin's experience, as she rarely needed to do anything to help him. Though, she would be remiss if she didn't converse something important beforehand about fighting against genjutsu. Naruto, please hold on for a moment. They were jumping through the treetops and Naruto stopped as soon as his leader Junin said so. They stood on top of the tree as they looked around for a while, before Kurenai turned to the genin. I know you're experienced in disrupting genjutsu, so hold on to that technique as soon as you sense the shift in chakra. While it would be more efficient to use counter genjutsu techniques, this is too advanced to teach you right now. Naruto cursed inwardly at not advancing too much in the genjutsu part of Tobirama's scroll, since using counter genjutsu was there indeed. Got it, Kurenai nodded and was about to order them to continue when she remembered another important aspect. Also, please bear in mind that they are still fellow Konoha shinobi, so please avoid using lethal force if possible. She was slightly surprised to see a look of surprise in his eyes. Still, she elaborated. I don't think that they will use lethal force against us, their target is Yakumo. But, Kurenai-sensei, what if they attempt to kill us? True, while they were in fact fellow Konoha ninja, it's not like she trusted them to place the needs of the village above the needs of the clan. Still, use your other skills to maim instead, Naruto. I know that a skilled kenjutsu fighter like I expect you to know the subtitles between going for the kill and incapacitation. Kurenai's mind went to her friend Yugo as she observed Naruto's sword. The genin certainly had some techniques that were more complementary in nature that could be used. Certainly, this mission could provide him with tons of opportunity to use his most diversified skill set. Plus, if Kurenai was correct, then the enemy wouldn't face them directly, opting for more subtle means. Okay Kurenai-sensei, I'll be careful. Please do, now let's continue. They continued forward for a while, before both dropped towards the ground, while looking around for traps and keeping in close proximity to their inner chakra. Kurenai observed as Naruto released his sword from its scabbard. When Naruto then made a step forward, he then looked down to see branches of leaves surrounding his foot and entrap him. Kurenai's feet suffered the same fate, but unlike the Junin, Naruto felt the sudden invasion of his chakra system. The blonde quickly disrupted the chakra flow and released the genjutsu technique, while observing the enemies. In less than a second, Kurenai used a counter genjutsu technique and escaped the vine's construct. Her body was turned into flower petals, ensnaring the two Kurama clan Chunin. Naruto took the opportunity of their lack of attention and charged at them, just as Kurenai appeared behind him. She observed as Naruto swiftly flipped his sword to use the blunt edge of the sword and slam them both on their side stomachs. She flinched at the aggression in his swing and the sound of the enemy's grunt in pain, before both passed out on the ground. Well, she couldn't deny it was effective and Naruto did what she asked him to do in the end. Well done, Naruto. Now please tie them up. We need to move quickly. Naruto nodded at the order and did just that, before placing a chakra suppressor seal in their foreheads for good measure. I didn't know you were into fuinjutsu as well. The genin smiled at that, as he observed the sealing arrays spread towards their body and mind. Yeah, another side project of mine, you know. Shall we? Pushing aside the thought of a genius shinobi in the making, Kurenai nodded as they advanced towards the mansion. So far, they only had to deal with the clan's weakest. Still, there were some who actually managed to snare Naruto into a nasty hell imagery genjutsu for 2 seconds. The genin was actually surprised to see his version of hell with the fox coming to attack him, before he dispelled it in enough time to protect himself against a barrage of kunai. Naruto, then, went through a sequence of hand seals, before focusing enough wind chakra on his fist. Futen Senpuken, wind release, whirlwind fist technique. He slammed the wind cannon punch straight at the enemy's gut, sending him flying while spinning towards a rather thick tree. He was slammed rather hard and fell on the ground unconscious. Kurenai, meanwhile, had the upper hand against her foes using counter genjutsu and her own illusion techniques. Different from Naruto, she would handle her enemies without appearing to lift a finger, whereas the genin had to constantly feel out his chakra pathways. He couldn't help but blame this situation on his large chakra coils, though his extensive chakra control exercises helped some. Still, as they progressed, Naruto couldn't help but feel how far he needed to go in the yin release department. The strain in his coils was getting to him. The precision required at all times and the effort to control his immense chakra to the level required for constant genjutsu usage. At one point, Naruto had simply defended against the enemies, pumping as much chakra as possible into a wind technique that blasted everyone from the ground, except Kurenai, who saw it coming. Right now, they were resting for a while behind a thick tree. The mansion was already visible as Kurenai turned to see the panting Naruto on the ground. Man, who would have thought I would get tired? That's a first. Kurenai couldn't help but laugh in humor at the situation while she crossed her arms. Dangling between yin and yang release is quite the strenuous activity indeed, and to control such large chakra the entire time is indeed taxing. We made good progress, though, so ease your chakra and rest. Kurenai stopped smiling when she turned towards the Satomi Hill mansion up ahead. She knew that this mission would be quite demanding, and Kurenai was afraid to open up the can of worms in her strained relationship with Yakumo. She wondered what they would find once inside, the sweet but frail girl or the furious beast that she met once before the attempted sealing. So, seeing that we have some time, how can I use counter genjutsu? Kurenai snorted in derision at the question. Leave it to Naruto to consider learning something now right in the middle of a mission. I'm afraid it's too advanced for you right now, but the theory is quite simple. In essence, you must dispel the technique your enemy casted and perform a genjutsu of your own almost at the same time. It depends on the level of the technique, though. B and A rank genjutsu techniques are quite hard to dispel, not to mention perform a counter genjutsu immediately after. In fact, even I would have difficulty using counters against an A-ranked illusion. Kurenai then saw the look of introspection in the genin's face and grunted. She wouldn't be surprised if he managed to do it in a couple of years, based on the rate he was progressing. How are you feeling? Naruto looked up from his sitting position and got up, while dusting the smear from his pants. With the theory of counter genjutsu in his mind, he closed his eyes and focused on molding chakra throughout every tenketsu inside his body, thus easing the strain. Bit better now, thank you. The two then charged towards the Satomi Hill mansion, before stopping as a giant tree emerged in their path. Both Naruto and Kurenai paused, knowing that it was a genjutsu, but the amount of chakra invading them felt way stronger than the others combined. The two then got caught in strong vines that entrapped their bodies and forbade them from using hand seals. Naruto even attempted to slice the vines with his swords, but more would simply appear and entrap him. The two looked at each other, before seeing a man come from inside the tree that appeared in front of them. Kurenai narrowed her eyebrows as she recognized this foe. Gray hair, face filled with wrinkles from old age and wearing a gray yukata and yellow pants. Kurama Unkai, the leader of the Kurama clan. The old man smirked at the recognition. Yuhi Kurenai, so the Hokage sent you once more. I did believe Hiruzen to be smart this time and send in someone else. Both Naruto and Kurenai snarled at the old man for his words. Both appeared to use brute force to escape from the binds, but failed. Oh, this is so precious. Please explain it to me how you are going to beat me. You are both in my world right now. Unkai then made more hand seals, before more vines grew from within the tree and charged straight at Kurenai and Naruto. Naruto, quickly use your sword on the both of us. The genin looked at her in surprise, before remembering their only means of escape. Able to free one of his hands, he whispered a silent sorry to the sensei, before piercing her right shoulder and then his own thigh. Both flinched at the pain, but it was enough to rid them of Unkai's technique as the tree vanished. Unkai snarled at that and threw a barrage of kunai and shuriken straight at Kurenai, who appeared to be the most injured from the small one's attack. Naruto, despite the injured thigh, managed to step in front of Kurenai and block the projectiles, before Unkai caught them in a genjutsu once more, just as Naruto charged with his sword. This time, he didn't allow for the vines to bind his arm and released the genjutsu, before parrying the kunai. Unkai then quickly evaded a barrage of shuriken from Kurenai. Naruto took the opportunity and went through a sequence of hand seals as he saw Unkai in midair. Fuden Daitapa, wind release. Great breakthrough technique. Unkai saw the blast of wind about to skewer him and he vanished using genjutsu. Naruto, keep on the attack, he is hidden behind that boulder to your right. The blonde genin used a quick shunshin and focused wind on his fist to destroy the boulder, forcing Unkai to escape from his hidden location. The leader of the Kurama clan stood menacingly at Kurenai, before Naruto stopped in front of her once more. "Why are you doing this, Unkai?" The old man was still in strike position with a kunai, before standing up and dropping his arms. "Yakumo is a disgrace and a menace to the clan, Kurenai. You know that more than most." Naruto and Kurenai were surprised when Unkai vanished once more and Naruto closed his eyes, focusing first on disrupting the subtle genjutsu and then pinpoint the enemy's position. Naruto then looked up just as Unkai came falling down with a kunai. "Well, it appears you got yourself a competent bodyguard." Naruto didn't stop and focused wind chakra through his sword and charged with speeds that surprised Unkai. He tried to block using kunai, but his weapon got sliced in half like it was nothing. When Naruto was about to slice him in half, Unkai vanished once more and managed to send a barrage of shuriken at the injured Kurenai, who for her turn used genjutsu as well to vanish from her position. Though, one of the shuriken ended up lodged on her arm. Before Unkai could follow up for the final blow, Naruto came barging in and landed a strong kick on Unkai's shoulder, followed by another kick to the man's chest. Unkai flinched in pain at the strong attack and snarled at the genin, before vanishing once more. Naruto stood for a while in front of Kurenai waiting for their enemy to appear once more. "Don't worry, Naruto-kun, he is not here anymore." Naruto grunted at that and then turned to the downed Junin. "I'm sorry, sensei, he slipped from my vision and got you injured. I should have been faster in dispelling genjutsu." Kurenai's messy ebony hair dangled in her dismissal to Naruto's self-blame and Naruto couldn't help but stare for some time at it. "You needn't worry, Naruto-kun, Unkai is a master in genjutsu fighting, you actually impressed him. Now, could you do me a favor and close these wounds for me?" The blonde sighed and got the first aid from his kunai holster. The Junin released the sleeve from her injured shoulder as Naruto cleaned up the injury and then passed some bandage over the wound to close. Muttering an apology at Kurenai's subtle complaint, Naruto then made a tight knot to hold it steady. He did the same with Kurenai's arm as well. "Thank you, though your patching needs more work." The woman Junin giggled at the sudden look of concern from the blonde genin, wondering if he had made a mistake. "Huh, you worry too much, Naruto, I was only jesting. This is the first time I did this, I was worried that I squeezed too tight. It's okay, I can handle the pain. Now, it appears the path is cleared towards the mission, so let us proceed. Satomi Hill Mansion ===. As soon as they stopped in front of the house, both Naruto and Kurenai were surprised when the door slowly opened up for them to enter. Naruto then looked to Kurenai and frowned at the worried stare in her eyes. "Naruto, I'm sure we are about to enter the demon's lair, but we have no choice but to enter." The genin nodded and followed the Junin inside. As soon as they did so, the door behind them closed and the mansion all but vanished. As soon as they stepped inside the house, Naruto and Kurenai were immediately oppressed by the strong energy that invaded their bodies. Naruto found himself lost for words as he couldn't feel his chakra for the first time in his life. "No doubt about it, we are in Yakumo's world right now." "What now, sensei? I can't feel my chakra." Kurenai nodded at the genin's words. "This is Yakumo's ultimate genjutsu, Naruto. Right now, we are inside her world and she rules everything, even our own ability to use chakra. Our only hope right now is for us to reach her and deal with whatever is happening to her right now." "Oh sensei, so nice of you to visit me again." The two suddenly tensed at the sudden haunted girly voice echoing throughout the corridors. "And you brought company as well, I was hoping for us to talk alone, actually. Shame that you two will not leave this place." With nothing left in terms of defense, Naruto unleashed his sword and Kurenai a lone kunai as the two wandered the dark hallways together. Considering that any room in this mansion could be a trap waiting to kill them, splitting up would be ill-advised, very ill-advised indeed, based on Kurenai's information just now. "Naruto, please be careful. Yakumo's genjutsu prowess is so powerful that it could kill you." "Huh? How's that possible? Genjutsu affects the mind and the senses into believing in something that isn't there. How can genjutsu be strong enough to kill?" "True, illusion targets the mind and the senses. However, Yakumo's genjutsu is so powerful that the brain is led to believe that you're in a life or death situation and react accordingly. Since we lack the usage of chakra, our mind is all we got." The news was quite startling indeed. So this is why the Hokage wanted you to deal with her, sensei. Because her power is dangerous. Yes, the Hokage wanted me dead, right, Kurenai-sensei? Again the voice echoed throughout the haunted hallways, and it appeared to come from the door to their right. When Naruto pushed it open, he was surprised to see that he was one step away from falling down into a pool of lava. And he would have, had Kurenai not held his shoulder at the last possible second. The unbearable heat crawled on their skin. The lava lake was so hot that bubbles appeared on the surface and even skeletons were floating freely. They knew that this was a genjutsu, but the feeling was so real it scared Naruto. He was scared to realize the sheer potency of a strong genjutsu user, and the possible damage done to his mind. Kurenai pushed Naruto back from the door and back to the hallways. Come on, Kurenai-sensei, what's taking you so long to get here? I'm getting really bored waiting. This time, the hollow voice shifted to a more urgent tone. Sounds like she's truly pissed. Kurenai released a sigh at the blonde's comment. Of course she is, and your comments are not helping, Naruto. The genin backed off at the sensei's tone and quickly apologized. Forgive me for snapping at you, just do realize that she hears everything, so avoid upsetting her until we find her. Okay, who is he, sensei? Another life for you to ruin. Naruto didn't enjoy the hollow laughter that followed after the jab, and Kurenai wasn't much interested in playing this game for long. Yakumo, you know you can make us walk for hours on end without finding you, so let's cut the chase and show us where you are. Well, that is true, sensei. Though, I wonder if I am done playing with you too. Yeah, you're right. You two please step inside the double door in front of you and let us have an interesting chat. True to her guiding, the brown double door surged out of nowhere and one of the doors opened. As soon as the two entered inside, the door was then shut, before vanishing. What they saw was breathtaking. It was like they were in outer space and a lone girl stood on some hovering platform in the middle of the room surrounded by paintings. Naruto now could take a look at Yakumo's appearance. Long brown hair and light brown eyes. Her hair is straight on one side and braided on the other side. She wore a pink kimono held closed by a pink sash with two pockets on the front. The hovering paintings were also quite disturbing. One had Konoha burned to the ground, other was the Hokage's tower being bombarded by lightning from the sky, but all the rest were of Kurenai suffering painful deaths. Do you like it, sensei? When I think of you, I get so creative, you know. I can think of many ways to deal with you right now, and then Konoha shall be next. Naruto took a step forward but stopped when Kurenai ushered him to stop. Why involve the village, Yakumo? I alone should be enough for your revenge. Yakumo, though, merely frowned at the comment as a painting from a shocked Kurenai in full body appeared in front of her. She then took a brush from her kit and painted Kurenai's feet up to her knee. The result was instantaneous as Kurenai looked down to see her feet up to her knees vanishing. Yakumo just kept her stoic face as she observed the painting as if neither Kurenai nor Naruto was there in the room with her. I have complete control over your life or death, Kurenai-sensei. Kurenai appeared frantic as she focused on her now missing feet. Why are you doing this, Yakumo? The girl giggled at the question, but still kept on facing the picture. You know, I was really counting on the Hokage sending you to deal with me, sensei. And now you're here with me, so now I can get the truth from you. Naruto tensed as Yakumo turned aggressively at them. I want the truth, sensei. I deserve to know the truth. The Sandaime ordered the death of my parents, right? He wanted the annihilation of the Kurama clan, didn't he? Naruto wondered about what the girl was saying, but he had kept his mouth shut. It was clear that something was not right, based on Kurenai's story when they started. The Junin looked briefly at the genin and nodded in appreciation at him allowing her to conduct the conversation. No, Yakumo, the Sandaime Hokage had not ordered such a thing. Please stop lying, sensei. You'll vanish if you continue. To prove her point, Yakumo repeated the brush on Kurenai's knees and thighs, and like before, Kurenai was now only visible from the waist up. Kurenai-sensei. The beautiful ebony-haired Junin looked at Naruto briefly and negated, before turning to Yakumo. She knew that some buttons needed to be pushed for Yakumo to truly see what was going on here. Though, at the same time, this was quite emotional for the Junin sensei. Kurenai had too many traumas in her life growing up. Something happened without her being able to do anything about it, but the worst ones were the ones where she could have done something about it, but didn't, and Yakumo was clearly in the top 3. Dear sad child, if killing me will settle your suffering, then by all means go right ahead. Your hate will vanish together with your suffering. Naruto's chest clenched as the woman tried to appear strong, but couldn't hold back the tears from falling. Yakumo, though, merely observed the show, and cursed her once more. What are those tears for, sensei? Well, let us continue. This time, Kurenai saw as her stomach vanished, leaving only half of her arms, chest area and her head. Naruto was finding hard to continue observing only and took a step forward. Stop, Naruto. The genin then crossed eyes with the stern-looking red eyes. He was at a loss right now in how to solve this matter. Please Yakumo, speak everything you have held inside your heart, focus your hatred on me. Both Naruto and Kurenai could see the brush on Yakumo's hand tremble. I heard you and the Hokage talking, sensei. How you tried to kill the Kurama clan. Kurenai now looked solemn as she really wanted to approach the sad child and hold her. No Yakumo, you got it all wrong. Stop lying. My mother and father wouldn't die in a fire. They were murdered, plain and simple. Naruto tensed once more as only Kurenai's head remained visible. Still, the Junin didn't budge. The only way they would get out of this was by telling her the truth. The truth, Yakumo, is that it was you who killed your parents, or rather something inside you did. The girl looked incredulous at the notion and was about to finish the job, when her head started hurting. The brush fell on the ground as Yakumo squeezed her head trying to stop the unbearable pain. The sudden image of her house burning to the ground and Yakumo standing outside crying non-stop at her parents' demise. The memory was repressed, but now it came bearing down at her like a broken dam. Keep a strong mind, Yakumo, you have to keep it under control. Keep what under control? I don't understand. Yakumo began to tremble until a painting fell on the ground next to her. It was completely dark, looking like dark mud, until it started to melt. Yakumo then looked at the image in the painting and froze in fear at the image of the beast dressed in the same clothes as her. Then the repressed memory of what happened appeared in her mind. She remembered it clearly now. Her parents were talking to her inside her bedroom. They wished for her to stop pressuring herself into becoming a shinobi. But, she felt that they were looking down on her, that they were really disappointed at her. Then, this creature appeared and turned to attack her parents. The fire was caused by this creature and it was all her fault. Kurenai-sensei was right, she killed her parents. You're right, sensei, I killed my parents. My genjutsu killed them. No, Yakumo, it was not you. Please try to listen to me. You and that monster are completely different beings. Naruto now focused on the sensei's frantic tone and he couldn't help but draw parallels once more with this girl. You're wrong, sensei, this creature lives inside me. I know now what must be done. Sorry Kurenai-sensei for causing you so much trouble. Kurenai saw the tears escape from Yakumo's eyes and turned to Naruto. Stop her, Naruto. The genin didn't need to be told twice and used all his chakra-less agility. Yakumo had a kunai aimed at her chest hoping to kill herself and end her suffering, and Naruto would make it in time, though he stopped when he saw a hand come out of the painting and hold Yakumo's. A hand that looked like hers, only bigger. Yakumo still tried to go through with it, but the hand wouldn't budge. The creature in the painting now turned into a picture of Yakumo herself and started talking to the little girl. Why do you want to take your own life? The voice was painful and hollow as well. Only those who are responsible for this burden should perish. The creature then emerged fully from the painting and stood in front of Yakumo with its hunched back and elongated arms and Oni mask. The creature then marched past the still struggling Yakumo towards Naruto and Kurenai. Naruto didn't wait long and charged with his sword. The creature then exhaled the blue flame beam at him, forcing Naruto to evade and keep on the assault. The monster's long legs managed to block his sword, so Naruto kept on attacking. He may not have his chakra, but he still had his physical skills. So, he used kenjutsu added by shuriken jutsu to keep the monster on the defensive. Kurenai looked worried at the genin and then looked back at Yakumo, who was still nurturing her head. Yakumo, you need to handle the monster. It came from your heart, so you need to confront it yourself. But, Yakumo focused on the boy facing the monster that she created, and while he was holding his own, Yakumo couldn't do anything but shake her knees. All she was focused right now was to keep standing up. Yakumo. The girl then noticed that the boy was talking to her, while facing the beast that she created. This is the first time we have met, but I may be the only one who understands you. Kurenai looked at the blonde genin and it truly only came to her now that Naruto was indeed speaking the truth. I know what's like to have a beast inside of you. Yakumo looked at him strangely, only this time her head stopped hurting. For the longest time, I was only known for the damage and thousands of lives that my demon caused to the village. There was a time when I wanted to do the same thing you tried just now. Naruto needed to stop, because the monster was right now attacking him. I know that pretty much all of the villagers would be thrilled to see me going all the way and taking my own life. Despite the laced humor in his voice, Kurenai could feel the pain laced within and it saddened her. Yakumo even more so as she looked at the beast that was now attacking him. Is this true, Kurenai-sensei? Kurenai was saddened by the tone of the genin and took some time to realize that Yakumo had stopped trembling and addressed her. While it was still an S-ranked secret, it was perhaps the only way to convince Yakumo. Uzumaki Naruto is the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi no Yoko, the fox demon who attacked the village. Yakumo looked at the blonde in a completely new light at the revelation, but even more so when she saw the drive in which he battled her own monster. Like Naruto deals with the fox every day of his life, Yakumo, so can you. You need to deal with this monster you created. The Kurama heir got a sudden influx of guts at seeing a fellow demon jailer and focused her chakra into the ram's seal, before grabbing the kunai on the ground and appearing in front of the monster who was trying to attack Naruto. Yakumo then slammed the kunai right in the creature's forehead, earning a scream of pain from said creature. It skidded backwards in pain as it asked why Yakumo would do such a thing. Have I not served you? I protected you from them all. Why did you do this to me? The creature's Oni mask then slashed in half and dropped dead on the ground. Yakumo was sweating profusely, now looking directly at the creature responsible for her parents getting killed. She then went through a number of hand seals, before Kurenai's body returned to normal. Naruto was content as the Junin appeared to be alright. Yakumo then limped towards Kurenai and fell down to the ground, as she remembered her frail composition. Before she could fall on the ground, Kurenai kneeled next to her and secured the pale but smiling girl in her arms. Kurenai was looking down at Yakumo with a beautiful smile and the girl was looking up in admiration. You did good, Yakumo, you defeated your darkness. Yakumo nodded and smiled as she closed her eyes and basked in her sensei's loving arms. Though, there was another person that she needed to thank as well. Thank you as well, Uzumaki Naruto. Naruto merely nodded in acknowledgement as Yakumo then went straight to unconsciousness. Strangely so, one of the paintings that had Kurenai being pierced by a yellow beam melted to review the very scene Naruto was observing right now. The other paintings all fell on the ground and the room curtains opened to review the blessing light of the moon outside. Last but not least, Naruto welcomed the sudden influx of his own chakra passing through his tenketsu once more. Being without was an experience he wasn't thrilled to have it anytime soon. Now it is quite clear to me, Kurenai-sensei, that you were wrong. The Junin looked back at him curiously, before Naruto explained with a content smile on his face. You didn't fail Yakumo nor did you fail your mission. Naruto. There were many things in her eyes towards the genin. Admiration and respect certainly being the top emotions she was feeling right now. But, above all else, one word was enough to express and for Naruto, it meant the world. Thank you, Naruto. Now, all we need to do is keep the clan from going after her, right? The Junin nodded and ushered Naruto to lead the protective detail while Kurenai gently carried the unconscious Yakumo to the Hokage. He would decide the best course of action. A week later A week has passed since Naruto and Kurenai saved Yakumo and then took her straight to the Hokage's office. It came as a surprise when the leader of the Kurama clan, Unkai, was there waiting for them. Apparently, his goals were much the same as the village's, or so he made it sound. In the end, Yakumo managed to defeat her inner beast and no longer had the same problem, meaning she could go back to become a kunoichi. And the Hokage had denied Unkai's request for Yakumo to return to the Kurama clan's grounds. Since she was now a registered genin, she could do whatever she wanted and she was also under the Hokage's authority. In the end, Kurenai took a step forward and offered one of the rooms in her house for the girl to live, until she could find her own home. After Unkai left, Kurenai and Naruto each gave the Hokage their separate report, ending with yet another successful mission for Naruto's record. After that, Naruto had met with Kurenai on occasion to receive more tutorship in Genjutsu and even other side projects. The woman was all too eager to help him with all of his so-called side projects, and she came to know there were indeed many. Asuma was in possession of a complete gold mine and he selfishly was keeping Naruto all to himself. Well, not anymore. Though, she could see something more in him that made her want to see him more often. Aside from having the opportunity to watch his growth, his stellar progression and perhaps aid him in his quest, Kurenai felt herself unguarded so to speak when they interacted. It was something she only reserved for a precious few, those being her friends Anko and Yugo. It's nice to think that she could possibly add another friend in him. Today, Naruto was taking a quiet walk towards the Hyuga compound. Hinata had asked him to come see her morning spar with her sister. Well, actually she had already wanted him to come, but this was the first time her father authorized him to come. When he arrived at the gates, Naruto saw the two guards at the gates holding staffs and blocking his entrance. Beat it, these are private grounds, kid. You can't come in here. Naruto looked at the one on the right who spoke. Well, it was already an improvement, considering the other words that people normally referred him as. Hi there, yeah, I'm Hyuga Hinata's genin teammate, Uzumaki Naruto. She invited me to come and Hyuga Hiyashi-sama authorized it. The two Hyuga guards looked at one another and grunted. At least, now, Naruto knew they recognized him. You can go in, but do not wander around or else you'll suffer the consequences. Naruto resisted the urge to roll his eyes. With eyes like the Byakugan that could see through walls, Naruto wouldn't be stupid to do such a thing. One of the guards ushered him to follow as they walked towards the clan's training grounds. Naruto observed as many spars were occurring while the clan in its whole stood and observed. His blonde hair and blue eyes stood out completely and he was receiving looks of complete hatred from some and apathy from others, as if he didn't exist in the first place. Usually, Naruto would receive the latter from the general population. Later, he saw Hinata kneeling next to her grunt of a father. Her sparring partner, Hanabi, was kneeling on Hiyashi's other side. Naruto decided not to bother Hinata, but he could see the saddened look in her eyes at having to do this once more and in front of the clan no less. The timid girl, for her chance, looked around, wanting to see if Naruto had arrived. All she could see, though, were white hollow eyes, long black hair and white or black robes, depending on the family branch. Her eyes suddenly looked livelier as she saw Naruto waving subtly at her, almost hidden by two Hyuga branch members. She waved back at him, before giggling once she saw Naruto being chided by the Hyuga branch member for waving at her. Naruto then grumbled and crossed his arms at being scolded for doing nothing. That interaction alone made her entire day worth it, and with him here, she could allow herself to relax as she remembered the one and only request Naruto made for coming here. Of course, I will go, Hinata, but promise me that you will take the spar seriously. I know you don't wish to hurt your sister, but you will be hurting her even more by taking it easy on her. At the time, she couldn't give him a confident answer. Every spar she had with her sister was practically the same. Hinata was more agile, more skilled, and certainly more experienced. Hanabi may be strong for her age and more attuned to the Hyuga's standard practice, but the only reason Hanabi appears to win every time was because Hinata would create an opening to finish the spar, but she would never go through with it for fear of hurting her. When Naruto said that, by doing so, Hinata was hurting her little sister, which gave her pause to reflect. The truth had only came once Hinata later saw her sister walking around the clan compound as if she was the clan head, mistreating everyone, demanding attention from the clan. She grew conceited and Hinata was the one to blame. By letting Hanabi win their spars, the little girl let this false fame go over her head. Well, not anymore. Hinata would shudder to think about Hanabi as a genin out there, doing something stupid and getting killed. So, when their father ushered them to stand in line and begin their spar, Hinata stood resolutely and met her sister in the middle. Hinata couldn't help but look at Naruto from the corner of her eye and bask in his confident eyes for her. Just watch me, Naruto-kun. I'll make you proud of me. Hanabi was the one who initiated the attack as her hands glowed in blue chakra. As a firm and proud practitioner of the Juken, Hanabi kept on the hard offensive. Though, her offense was met with a subtle defense that merely diverted Hanabi's energy away without the little kid knowing what happened. Naruto smirked immediately. Hinata was taking this seriously. Hanabi looked back at her sister who looked back sternly. Hanabi snarled and kept on the offensive. Then, the Juken back and forward began with high-energy thrusts between both Hyugas. Still, Hanabi flinched at each and every thrust from her Juken strike was completely diverted by Hinata, and her sister's strikes were causing internal damage. Hinata, for her part, focused on her goal to stop her sister from her way of thinking, but it was hard. It was time to finish this, before her own will falters. So, with surprising speed, Hinata diverted Hanabi's last strike and got a full view of her little sister's exposed side. She could have given a solid Juken strike on Hanabi that would cause some serious internal damage, but Hinata chose a different venue and Naruto saw it happen. The elder sister gave Hanabi a concentrated slap at the back of her neck, sending Hanabi into the sweet realm of unconsciousness. Hinata knew that in the eyes of the clan, she should have followed through with her attack. Though, she couldn't do that to her sister. She promised Naruto that she would win the spar, so she did. She will not in any way or form willingly harm her little sister that reminds her so much of her own mother. So, she stood proudly for the first time in her life as she looked Hyuga Hiyashi in the eye. Her father stared back, seeing his daughter's resolve in all of this, despite the clan's murmuring sounds of disapproval. After some time, Hiyashi had a subtle smile on his face at seeing his daughter finally show some backbone. Though, he never opened his mouth and issued the end of today's spar, before ordering Hanabi to get attended. Hinata managed to breathe once more in relief and a proud smile was on her face, despite no one approaching to see if she was okay. Well done, Hinata, the girl didn't want anyone in the clan to come, only him. You did great, especially in the end there. I couldn't go through with it, Naruto-kun. I know. Hinata looked at his face in surprise. But there are more ways to defeat an opponent and you did it without having to use brute force. I'm proud of you, Hinata. The girl opened her mouth in awe for a while and then smiled brightly. How much she wanted to hear those words from the one she most admired. Say, you have some time right now, there is this one person I want you to see. Hinata nodded, though she wondered about whom Naruto wanted her to meet. Training ground number 3 ===. Kurenai was currently overseeing Yakumo's training with other skills aside from Genjutsu. While Yakumo took over her problem with the beast, her overall composition was still in the way, so Yakumo would never be a close-range fighter. The best she could do right now was to provide support from long range and use her illusions. While it would be fair to assume that her career would be limited, Kurenai figured that with enough experience, the Kurama clan heir could be quite an accomplished chunin at specific assignments. Perhaps, become a Tokubetsu Junin in Genjutsu, who knows. Still, it was a far better future than being in a mental facility. So, Kurenai would be tutoring Yakumo together with her own genin team. So, as Yakumo focused on shuriken and kunai target practice, the ebony-haired Junin stood behind her with a smile on her face and her arms crossed. She then turned to the right when Naruto appeared with Hinata in tow. They appeared to be chatting amicably and Kurenai's heart swelled at seeing the girl walk. Hinata still looked reserved somewhat, but she was smiling more and her shoulders were more open, showing more confidence. So, Naruto did tell the truth. Hinata, for her part, looked up and saw Kurenai. Her content smile turned into a full-out happiness as she saw the Junin. Kurenai-sensei. Hinata then turned to the smiling Naruto for a second, before she ran towards Kurenai and embraced her. Naruto was just content in seeing their encounter once more as Kurenai was busy caressing Hinata's hair and chatting with her former ward. Naruto then saw Kurenai introducing Hinata to Yakumo. Kurenai had talked to Naruto about the possibility of Yakumo flourishing more if she had a girl her age to hang around more. Both Ino and Sakura could be good choices, but their outgoing personalities would probably push Yakumo away and do more harm than good. Hinata, on the other hand, was a perfect fit for Yakumo. And they were right. Kurenai then looked up at her blonde friend for a while, before returning to their private chat. Yakumo and Hinata laughing with one another was perhaps Kurenai's favorite little song. Chapter 12 Chunin Exams Part 1. Sarutobi Asuma was relaxing with a smoke as he observed his team train. Since he returned from the capital, he had performed another quick C ranked with his team as well as a couple of D ranked here and there, much to Shikamaru's visible complaint. As Junin sensei of Team 10, Asuma had received the report of his genin's activities. Shikamaru's trip with his family as well as the Yamanaka and Akamichi clans bore great fruit in terms of teamwork exercises and even some training with shadow manipulation. Hinata and Naruto had also trained a lot with Hinata staying inside her compound training with her father. Asuma had surprisingly so received high praise from Hinata's father, saying that she has improved greatly under his command. Asuma found it hard to accept the praise, considering that it was mostly Naruto who got the Hyuga heiress to where she was now. As to Naruto, Asuma had simply stopped being surprised. Asuma had known about Naruto's time with Kurenai in Genjutsu practice, going as far as to participate in a B-ranked assignment that involved one of Kurenai's students Yakumo and the Kurama clan. If that wasn't surprising enough, Naruto had even shown the bearded Junin the beginnings of water manipulation exercise, one of his so-called side projects. While Naruto only showed him the beginning stages of Suiten manipulation, Asuma couldn't help but whistle at the speed in which this kid was growing. While true that Naruto had an affinity for water as well, using two elements in his first year of graduation placed him easily under the term of a prodigy. Not only on ninjutsu, but genjutsu, fuinjutsu and kenjutsu as well, truly Asuma wondered if the kid ever bothered sleeping. Kurenai had certainly bombarded him ever since he came back from his trip, with demands about sharing Naruto's training with her from time to time as she had finally found a genjutsu user to tutor. Of course, she had Yakumo for that, but the Kurama heir truly needed no tutorship in that regard. Asuma chuckled as Naruto took less than a couple minutes sparring with Shikamaru, before the lazy genius was on the ground panting for breath. Shikamaru's training trip may have helped him, but Naruto was never known for taking it easy. "You're all right, Shika." The frown on his face was evidence enough that he shouldn't even bother accepting to spar with his teammate. "I told you it is worthless to try and face you in taijutsu." Naruto smiles as he offers a hand for Shikamaru. "Nonsense. You have improved greatly, Shika. I am betting you have trained a lot. Keep up the good work." Hinata quietly observed the spar as she would be next to face Naruto. She couldn't help but see the humor in Shikamaru's sounds of complaint when in the presence of Naruto's drive. Looking at her genin superior, Hinata couldn't help but blush at her senpai's new clothes. Naruto's new attire consists of a fishnet shirt covered by dark blue short-sleeve yukata and dark blue pants with yellow tied by yellow sash. Both his wrists were wrapped by bandages just like Kurenai's thighs. When the girls asked what main color he envisioned, dark blue was his immediate answer as he remembered the Nadime's clothes. After that, Hinata, Yakumo and Kurenai had helped him choose. Hinata saw how fine he was dressed in dark blue and the yellow sash matched with his golden hair. "Okay Hinata, you're up, hopefully you can last longer than Shikamaru here." Both Naruto and Hinata laughed both at Asuma's comment and Shikamaru's mumbling response. "Feel free to use the Juken, Hinata. It will serve as practice against Neji when you next spar with him." Hinata smiled and fell into her fluid stance. After defeating Hanabi in their fight, Hinata had gained a boost in confidence. While never outgoing, she now went from lack of self-trust to a reserved girl that stood out for herself. And Hiyashi was pleased with her growth, so he had placed Hinata to face off against the clan's branch house prodigy Hyuga Neji. Truth be told, Hinata had not considered herself ready, not even remotely. Neji Nisan is a year older than me, Naruto-kun, and a genius. I can't hope to defeat him. Naruto merely tsked at her comment, downgrading her skills like that. Experience counts a great deal, Hinata, but your style of fighting compensates any lack of experience towards an older enemy. From what you said, Neji's style is not that different from Hanabi's. That rigid stance of your clan can't deal much with this style you created. So truly, Neji only has superior strength, but we had practiced many times together. Now, let's begin. Hinata noticed as Naruto dashed towards her position at high speed as her Byakugan saw the use of chakra on his limbs. Hinata had used her style and diverted Naruto's punch. The face-off causes dirt to get up from the ground. Asuma saw it and chuckled. He saw the look in Hinata's eyes spark as she sparred with Naruto. Kurenai was right. Naruto's drive to improve rubbed off on Hinata to the point that the Hyuga girl became quite the menace in close-range fighting. Hinata's hands glowed with chakra as she attempted to break Naruto's guard. Naruto was already familiar with fighting against the Juken, so he was wary of her fingers and palm thrusts. And with her Byakugan, Hinata was able to follow Naruto's movements. Naruto is highly efficient in using chakra to his moves, so her eye pinpointed exactly which limb and where her teammate would strike. Still, as the fight progressed, like she expected, Naruto increased his speed. In a way, Hinata was happy to be in this position right now. Despite her already knowing that it wouldn't take much longer for her to tire and call it quits, she could see how much she had improved by seeing how her senpai Naruto was taking her seriously in this fight. It came as a position of respect to be acknowledged by whom she considered her senior, despite being the same age. As soon as Hinata had lost her footing in dodging one of Naruto's punches, Asuma-sensei had called the end of the match just as Naruto was about to follow up with a direct hit to her stomach. Nicely done, Hinata, you sure improved with the Juken. The girl was panting for breath, but still standing as Asuma praised her. And it appears your stamina improved as well. Hi. Chu-san has been tutoring me in the Juken more these days. Asuma chuckled at the girl still fidgeting somewhat with her fingers at his praise. All right then, Naruto, Shikamaru, Hinata, take a seat and get some rest, I have some news to tell you three. Oh troublesome, you're doing it right. You're nominating us. The bearded Junin couldn't help but chuckle at the little genius Nara, while Hinata and Naruto were looking at each other, clueless. Well, since his Shikamaru's father is the Jonin commander, him knowing about it firsthand was no surprise. Flashback to this morning in the Hokage's office. The Hokage had summoned all of the most senior Chunin and Junin to one of the giant halls of the Hokage's administration building for an important announcement. So it has started, then. Kakashi stood next to Asuma and Kurenai as both his fellow Junin nodded, both already knowing what this was about. Sarutobi Hiruzen had looked around and figured that most were present. Indeed, Kakashi, now allow me to make the formal announcement. In a few days' time, the Chunin exams will begin. Now, then, in conjunction with beginning the Chunin exams, I want to hear the names of the genin that you wish to nominate, beginning with those in charge of the rookie genins. Kakashi, Asuma, Kurenai, please step forward. The three Jonin did as commanded as Hiruzen eyed them warily as per the situation required. So, are there any genins from your squads you wish to nominate? It goes without saying that only a genin who has carried out 8 or more formal missions is hereby allowed to be nominated, but at least double that amount would be advisable, so let us hear you three, starting with you Kakashi. Those in the back didn't even need to hear the Jonin sensei, for as they knew that nominating recently graduated genin was out of the question. That was certainly what Yumino Iruka was thinking as he waited for Kakashi to speak. The silver-haired Junin formed the ram hand sign and spoke with as much boredom as his apparent visage. Hitaki Kakashi, Jonin sensei of Team 7 composed of Uchiha Sasuke, Inuzuka Kiba and Haruno Sakura, I hereby nominate all three for the Chunin exams. The announcement came as a shock to everyone present, but Kurenai soon went after Kakashi. Yuhi Kurenai, Jonin sensei of Team 8 composed of Akamichi Choji, Aburame Shino and Yamanaka Ino, I hereby nominate all three for the Chunin exams. Iruka by this point was wondering what the hell was going on as Asuma went up last. Sarutobi Asuma, Jonin sensei of Team 10 composed of Hyuga Hinata, Nara Shikamaru and Uzumaki Naruto, I hereby nominate all three for the Chunin exams. Immediately after the three Junin announced their respective teams, Hiruzen simply acknowledged with a hum of his throat, while the rest of the shinobi all murmured behind them, about how strong these rookie genin must be to be nominated right off the bat. Of course, it was no secret at least to Hiruzen, who had spoken with the three Junin already about having these 9 genin participate in the Chunin exams, considering that this generation was composed of clan heirs, meaning that the village could receive quite the income from missions. While it was underhanded placing green shinobi to be used like this, it was one of the Hokage's jobs to bring in revenue for the village, and he had high hopes that these 9 genin will surprise everyone in a positive manner. Hey, wait a minute here, Iruka had about enough of this charade, though, and stepped forward, earning the Junin's attention. What is it, Iruka? Speak your mind. The Chunin teacher gestured exasperated, showing his objection. Forgive me Hokage-sama, but I was in charge of these genin in the academy. I admit that they all showed advanced skills, but this is too soon for them. Kakashi, Asuma and Kurenai all looked at Iruka with apathy. Kurenai and Asuma really didn't bother much explaining their reasons, but Kakashi, with his bored almost falling asleep look, decided to entertain the Chunin's pledge. I became a Chunin when I was 6 years younger than Sasuke is now. This is not wartime, Kakashi, is it your wish to crush these kids? Kakashi wasn't bothered by Iruka's sudden outburst, however. My team always complains about wanting important missions and such, so teaching them a lesson would be fun, wouldn't you say, Iruka? Crushing them would be quite fun too. The Chunin felt insulted by the insinuation. What did you say? Well, joking aside, I understand where you're coming from. However, Asuma and Kurenai turned to see Kakashi and knew that their fellow Chunin wouldn't mince words right now. Stay out of this. They are not your students anymore. They are our subordinates, and is up to us and only us to define whether or not they are ready for the exams. Iruka was truly about to hurl some obscenities at Kakashi for what he said, while Kurenai and Asuma had simply sighed in dismay. Though, they knew that saying their peace of mind would at least place Iruka's mind at ease. Iruka, despite Kakashi's harsh words, he is right, they are our subordinates. Kurenai said with a smile on her face. Plus, we wouldn't be irresponsible in simply throwing them in the Chunin exams if we didn't believe that they weren't ready. Asuma then followed with his cigarette in between his teeth, before Kurenai turned to him. Though, it is quite unfair that your team has Naruto-kun in it. The bearded Chunin merely shrugged, still unable to take credit for the daily surprise. Hiruzen just observed the conversation, and it was clear that he was enjoying it. Enough everyone, Iruka, Kakashi is right. The genins are now their subordinates, so they are free to be nominated. The Chunin in question frowned but said nothing else. He wouldn't be pressing the issue any further. Furthermore, I don't need to stress that everyone needs to be on high alert. There are too many genin and jonin from the other villages, so it's imperative to be on the lookout for any strange activity from each and every one of them. The ones present knew what the Hokage was saying and paid close attention. Do you have any suspicion, Hokage-sama? The village leader took a puff from his pipe and turned to Kakashi. Reports are coming still and none stand out so far, many rumors going on and many uncertainties from the other villages, so maintain complete vigilance. With that, the Hokage had dismissed everyone, especially the 3 Chunin, to communicate their respective genin. Back with Team 10 ===. Asuma saw the gathered team with a smile as he began his announcement for them. The sun was minutes away from setting for the day as the genin took a seat around Asuma. As Shikamaru probably already knows, in a couple of days, Konoha will host the Chunin exams. The news came as a surprise to Naruto, since he caught up on the sudden movement from visitors inside Konoha since the beginning of this week. At the time, he had simply waved it off, figuring that there was a festival of some kind. Plus, with some missions and training underway, the blonde shinobi had other concerns. In a couple of days, genins from other villages shall arrive to participate in an event that will demonstrate whether or not they are ready for the promotion, and as of this morning, I had nominated you 3 as eligible to participate. The response varied after his announcement. Shikamaru mumbled, Hinata, eeped, in surprise, and Naruto became elated at the prospect. Do you think we have what it takes to become Chunin, sensei? It came as a surprise to Asuma that it was Naruto who asked that to him. Aside from a little more experience, the blonde genin was already Chunin material. Still, the question brought about the other 2's interest, so Asuma addressed everyone instead. If I didn't believe you 3 weren't capable, I wouldn't have nominated you 3. We already reached the minimal mission requirement for the participation, and it shall be a good experience for you 3 to face off after genin from other villages. Still, Hinata was the one who still looked skeptical about herself. Well, he needed to explain to them that attending was optional, of course withholding information that if one chose not to come, then the rest of them wouldn't be able to participate. Of course, if any of you feel like you want to wait a while, participating is optional. As Asuma accepted, Hinata relaxed a little bit, but she still looked concerned while looking subtly at her teammates for confirmation. Well, You all are free for the rest of the day and until the day of the exams, and if you choose to attend, then here are the forms. After handing the forms, Asuma placed both hands on his waist. Okay, now run along, think about it and see you at the exams, or not. Shikamaru was the first who yawned and bid everyone goodbye. Naruto was seen whispering some encouraging words to Hinata, who appreciated it and bid him and Asuma goodbye after that, leaving Naruto and Asuma alone. I guess I don't need to ask whether or not you want to go, huh Naruto, but please do not pressure Hinata into going if she is resistant. Naruto negated the accusation, looked at the Jonin. Don't worry, I won't pressure her into going. All I said to her was that she could talk about it with either you or Kurenai-sensei before deciding. But her family will pressure her into going, I'm afraid. Asuma sighed, concurring. Indeed, for a Hyuga, especially the main family, to back off from this, Hiashi would not take that lightly. Naruto shrugged. In the end, this was a door that Hinata herself needed to pass herself in the end. Still, there was also something I wished to convey to you, Naruto. He looked as Asuma opened a bright smile. It's quite impressive how you had taken a position of leadership amongst some of your peers. Naruto looked in surprise at that and couldn't help but avert his eyes somewhat at the praise, though Naruto smiled in content. Not only to Hinata and Shikamaru, but Sakura, Choji and Sasuke as well, from what both Kakashi and Kurenai told me. Well, I don't know about that, I mean, all I did was try to give them some pointers here and there. A chuckle escaped from Asuma's mouth at that. Don't be modest, Naruto, be proud of that. To become a Chunin, skill alone does not mean much. Being a Chunin requires experience and leadership. There will come a time when you will be pointed out squad leader for a mission and you will get to lead Genins and even other Chunin. It only dawned on Naruto now the words of wisdom he was receiving. True, the Nadime's lessons, his training on his own and with either Asuma, Kakashi or Kurenai-sensei, they had only prepared him so much. Being a squad leader, being responsible for the lives of your team, that he would only get to learn with experience. And there will be times when he will make a mistake. However, Naruto had truly remarkable role models to follow. I guess I understand, Asuma-sensei, though it's quite scary now that you mention it. Asuma just hummed in approval. He would be disappointed had Naruto said something laced with arrogance. Indeed it is, as you grow, the challenges ahead of you will be harder. And with your drive to improve, I have no doubt that you will be quite an accomplished shinobi, Naruto. Going from genes alone, that was an understatement in Asuma's opinion. But then he remembered some of the beef he had with his father, so Asuma refrained from that line of thinking. Thank you, Asuma-sensei. Well, I can already state that I will be there, and Shikamaru will as well, hehe, his mother will kick him all the way to Suna if he doesn't go. See you Asuma-sensei. The bearded Junin waved at the kid, while sharing the humor of Inara Yoshino chasing Shikamaru throughout the village and dropping him at the academy soon after. Once alone, he just lighted another cigarette and casually walked towards the Hidden Leaf village, while the city lights slowly came to life in front of his eyes. With nothing better to do for the day, Asuma went straight to the Sarutobi compound and took it easy. Chunin exams start When the date of the exam occurred, the village was in uproar with the opened gates. Many people flooded through the gates. Visitors, vendors, customers and genin from other villages as well, plus the jonin responsible. As such, the hidden village in the leaves worked double in providing security for everyone. The village counted with the help of the Anbu force and the Chunin guards to investigate if the genin and the jonin from other villages matched with the list they had. Many of the Chunin guards were censors, as such they had the ability to scout for possible invaders, eventual shinobi or kunoichi disguised as the ones Konoha had on the list. So far, nothing out of the ordinary occurred, though. At least, nothing considering the foreigners' behavior. However, on the main road there was a skirmish with the village's troublemaker and the Sandame's grandson Sarutobi Konohamaru and his two friends Moegi and Udon. Konohamaru was a scrawny little kid wearing yellow shirt, brown pants, a set of goggles and a long scarf. And right now, the little troublemaker was running for his life together with his friends as one Haruno Sakura was chasing them, after a comment from Konohamaru regarding her let's say front assets or lack thereof. Of course, the fiery Haruno wouldn't take the comment lightly and chased after the three. Kiba and Akamaru were with her when it happened, and instead of trying to stop her from killing the Hokage's grandson, the Inuzuka merely pointed at Sakura and laughed his ass off about the comment. Of course, before Sakura chased Konohamaru, Sakura punched Kiba hard on his stomach. Of course, with her chakra control being even higher than Naruto's, Sakura managed to pack quite the chakra-enhanced punch. Ah, she is going to kill us, crazy lady, I'm sorry. If possible, Sakura was even angrier when she heard the brat's comment. Come back here, you little creep. I'll teach you some manners. Konohamaru screamed his ass off out of fright as they saw Sakura approach them slowly but surely. Konohamaru was running while looking back to see Sakura's position, so he didn't see that he was running straight towards a genin from Suna wearing a black hooded jumpsuit and wore paint on his face. The kid slammed into the genin and fell on his butt on the ground. Sakura and Kiba soon appeared as they recognized the guy's Suna headband. Plus, there was a girl next to him with blonde hair tied in 4 pigtails, wearing light gray clothes with fishnet clothing. The guy was looking straight towards Konohamaru. That hurts, little shit. He then grabbed Konohamaru by the scarf and dragged him forcefully up in the air. The kid tried in vain to get away, but his airpipe was being squeezed. Hey, let him go, it was just an accident. Kiba was about to charge at this punk for daring to attack Konohamaru, no matter how much of a pain this kid actually was. Oi, stop that, you'll get us in trouble, Konkuro. The Suna genin named Konkuro looked at both the blonde girl and the one that threatened him wearing a gray overcoat with the dog on his head. So you're all Konoha genin, huh? I guess I'll just play with you two while we wait. Hey jackass, let him go this instant, let's go Akamaru. The dog barked in acknowledgement just as Kankuro smiled and threw Konohamaru towards the running Kiba. The Inuzuka, though, managed to grab Konohamaru airborne and gently placed him on the ground, before ushering the kids to run along. You'll pay for that now. Kankuro merely tsked at the empty threat while the blonde girl from Suna merely sighed in exasperation. She shrugged though as Kankuro did cause this situation. Sakura did try to stop Kiba from attacking a foreign shinobi while it was clear that they were here for the Chunin exams, but she was already too late to do that. Kankuro, though, merely smirked as he swiftly used chakra strings that he used to control puppets to make Kiba slip and fall on the ground. Akamaru stopped his advance as he checked on his owner to see if Kiba was alright. Sakura, for her part, released a sigh at the scene, ignoring the Suna genin's taunt against Kiba. So, it's this what Konoha has to offer, then this Chunin exams will be easy. Allow me to finish you off right here and remove you from the competition. The threat was quite clear as Kankuro unleashed what was strapped on his back. The woman next to him became worried about the situation escalating and urged him to stop, but Kankuro paid her no mind. Before Kankuro managed to release whatever technique he was about to perform, a small pebble of rock traveled fast straight towards his stretched hand, forcing him to abort. When everyone turned to see the direction it came from, Uchiha Sasuke was sitting on top of a tree, dangling another small rock on his hand. Immediately, Sakura relaxed somewhat, knowing that at least they had the superior numbers if something were to happen here. Still, she couldn't help but berate the Uchiha. Sasuke-kun, what took you so long to get here? You're late. The Uchiha only grunted, not bothering to acknowledge Sakura's complaint. It was already a huge boon in his life that Sakura had stopped following him around like Akamaru did to Kiba. While it couldn't be said that her teenage infatuation with the Uchiha was no more, it was now more subdued. After all, Sasuke could attest that Sakura became more motivated after the wave mission in her demanding Naruto to help train her from time to time. How about you get down from there, so that I can teach you a lesson in manners, punk? Sasuke looked at Kankuro and sneered at the empty threat. You should think better before trying to cause trouble in here. Sasuke got up from his sitting position and was about to jump down, when a smooth voice jolted Sasuke by surprise. Kankuro, stop this at once, you're an embarrassment to the village. Sasuke was so caught by surprise that he had even activated the Sharingan in reflex, before looking back to the other side of the tree he was sitting on. There, hanging upside down, was a redhead genin with a giant gourd strapped on his back. Sasuke was completely caught off guard since he didn't even hear the intruder's footsteps. This level of stealth was close to Kakashi in his mind. Sakura and Kiba even looked surprised at the sudden appearance, though Sakura was surprised at the frightened look displayed by the two genins from Suna at this new guy's presence. Then, both the newcomer and Sasuke used Shunshin to drop to the ground at the same time, before facing each other. A complete silence ensued as Sasuke eyed this interesting foe before him, while the opponent did the same to Sasuke. Sasuke could tell that this guy was the real deal and he couldn't help but compare him to Naruto. It was certainly the same feeling he had when Sasuke sparred with Naruto when they had the chance. "Tell me, what's your name?" The redhead had simply stared at Sasuke for a long time, and this only served to escalate the tension further. Certainly, Kankuro and the blonde lady next to him were already feeling it. "Sabaku no Gaara, you are very interesting as well, what's your name?" The Uchiha smirked at the acknowledgement from a worthy opponent. "Uchiha Sasuke, I look forward to facing you in the Chunin exams." Gaara just hummed in recognition, before he turned and jumped away followed by his teammates. The two ended up causing quite a spectacle for many foreign shinobi, who were perfectly hidden on top of other trees a couple meters behind them. Shinobi and kunoichi from Iwa, Kumo, Kiri and even 3 shinobi wearing a headband with a musical note as a symbol. They all focused on the black-haired genin from Konoha and the one with the gourd from Sunagaku. And they were all gunning against the genins from Konoha in particular. If there is one village that every other village hates with a passion and for different but similar reasons was the hidden village in the leaves. This was the scene where one particular blonde shinobi wearing navy blue clothes observed from a very good vantage point on top of a building nearby. Naruto's focus lay entirely on the redhead genin from Sunagaku as he could feel a powerful chakra inside of him, the likes of which it was uncomfortably familiar. Academy building . After leaving the building, Naruto went straight towards the academy building where he would join the Chunin exams. As soon as he got in front of the building, Naruto was surprised to see Shikamaru and Hinata there waiting for him. The 3 genin exchanged pleasantries along the way, with Naruto praising Hinata for her decision to come and laughing at Shikamaru from probably being too scared to risk telling his mother that he didn't want to attend. After that, the team went inside the building and climbed 2 sets of stairs, before stopping when they saw a commotion of sorts. They were supposed to head to room 301 and Shikamaru had simply sighed, wondering why these people even bothered. Naruto and Hinata chose to simply follow the genius as they had avoided the group of genin on the 2nd floor and went straight to the 3rd where they would find the designated room. Of course, had they opted to stay on the 2nd floor, they would have witnessed a standoff between Sasuke and 2 Konoha genins that graduated last year, one of them being Hinata's cousin Hyuga Neji. As soon as Team 10 appeared in front of the room 301, they saw Asuma casually leaning on the wall, with his arms crossed, eyes closed and smoking. "Well, it appears that Hinata is here, huh, good. Now, you can formally attend the Chunin exams." The girl in question looked at their sensei with a silent question, as Asuma chuckled. Actually, from the start, only 3-man squads could apply and take the exams. "So you lied," Asuma smiled at Shikamaru's accusation and, well, it wasn't much of an accusation, but an assertion. "Indeed, had I said it differently, either one of you could be pressured by the others to apply. This way, at least, by you 3 showing up individually, shows that you're at least in this wholeheartedly." It took Shikamaru's throat clearing to make Asuma correct himself. Well, at least Hinata and Naruto is. Naruto couldn't help but grunt at his teammates' laziness. Naruto had already shown that he could use Suiton manipulation, so it would be perfectly fine for him to use the Nadime's water whip on the lazy Nara. Then, he counted 1 to 10 backwards and it passed. Still, it would be highly satisfying to do so, soon, he will, though, only once just to feel vindicated. "Well, I guess it's due time you 3 step in there and begin. I'd just like to say how proud of you 3 I am, even you Shikamaru." Asuma saw the 3 smile back and then step aside as his team took their first steps towards becoming a Chunin. Room 301 . Once inside, Team 10 had met probably close to 200 pairs of eyes staring at them. Quickly so, the team went to the far corner of the room where they saw Team 8 standing there waiting as well. "Oh Shikamaru, Naruto, you came." Choji greeted them as he was busy eating a bag of chips. The other two boys greeted the robust genin while Ino greeted Hinata. Shino just stood in the back, observing the group's interaction. "It's great to see you, Choji. How's your family doing?" Choji responded to Naruto's question by offering him a bag of chips. "They are great, Naruto." Naruto had been there together with Shikamaru once or twice. The Akamichi clan were food lovers and Naruto had quite the stomach to match the clan. Akamichi Chusa, Choji's father, saw Naruto's performance at the food table and he bonded with the blonde genin immediately, saying that Choji should invite Naruto more often to the clan's food gatherings. While Naruto preferred ramen and even Kosuke's magnificent cooking, the Akamichi clan's barbecue was excellent as well. "So, I guess that even you came, Shikamaru." "Yeah, though is quite troublesome. It would be even more to try and back out of this and explain to my mother." Choji showed a full-out smile at that, knowing all about it. The chatting then stopped once Sasuke's team opened the door as well and once again, everyone turned to see the new opposition. Ino stopped chatting with Hinata and hugged Sasuke from behind, earning Sakura's ire at the Yamanaka's forwardness, while Kiba ignored them and greeted the other genin, namely Naruto, Shikamaru and Choji. It's been a long time ago, but these four would get together in this very academy and skip school together. While it's been a long time, Naruto found himself reminiscing on those days while the four chatted amicably. While they chatted, a gray-haired man with a short ponytail, a Konoha genin, approached the 9 rookie genin. He wore long blue pants, a gray shirt beneath a dark blue jean vest and glasses. This stranger fell into Naruto's senses immediately, though the blonde couldn't feel a strong chakra capacity, meaning that either he was truly a low-level genin or he was controlling his chakra to a point that he was able to trick a censor shinobi. "Hey there, you should be a little quieter and learn to read the atmosphere. You all are rookie genin, aren't you? Good grief." Ino was the one who took offense to the man's talking. "Well, and who are you, talking like you know us?" The grown-up genin adjusted his glasses and opened a haughty smile at them. "I'm Yakushi Kabuto and please take a good look around you." As an answer to his cue, the rookie genin looked around and once more caught the eyes and stares of everyone in the room focused solely on them. "Everyone around here is quite tense because of the exams, so I wouldn't push it if I were you. Just a heads up from a fellow shinobi of the Leaf." Like Kabuto expected, the rookie genin at least stopped conversing as if this was a school field trip and stopped talking, though Naruto was still wary of this guy. "Now, I guess that with you being rookies and all, a few pointers would help you all." "Ah, Kabuto-san, so is this your second time in the Chunin exams?" Sakura looked quite eager to know more about what was going on. "Well, it's my 7th time overall." The rookies had different responses to that. Kiba mocked him for being a low-level genin. Sasuke just dismissed this guy's info considering it all. Shikamaru considered the exam even more troublesome if it took someone 7 tries and still failed. However, Naruto right there caught a minuscule shift in his man's chakra as soon as he said it. Something was not right here, though he couldn't tell what. "So, I guess that most of you already know a bit or two about these exams and the relations between villages, so I won't bother going into detail. But, I could provide help for you guys to know what you may be up against." Kabuto then reached inside his pocket and picked up a deck of cards. "Throughout my experience, I have gathered information about all of the genin here, including you 9. "What are those?" Naruto asked as he could feel the intricacies of Fuinjutsu on these cards, getting his interest. "Oh, these are ninja info cards. These cards react to my chakra, so only when I pass my chakra through it, the card reveals the shinobi, any shinobi here's stats." Kabuto then began to flip the cards one by one and pass chakra through, showing images of some of the shinobi in this room. "So, any of you wish to know about anyone here?" The rookie genin were all silent as none of them had any names they wished to pass on to Kabuto. Only Sasuke had a few names to check. "What can you tell about Sabaku no Gaara from the Sand and Uzumaki Naruto from the Leaf?" Sasuke's mention of Naruto was met with incredulity from the rest, though Naruto couldn't help but sigh at the rivalry that the Uchiha pursued with him. While Naruto enjoyed sparring with Sasuke's Sharingan every now and then, he wasn't too thrilled to deal with Sasuke's drive to defeat him every chance he got. Still, it would be at least revealing to Naruto just what sort of information this Kabuto had on him to confirm if this guy is legit or not. A side look at Shikamaru made Naruto aware that his teammate was also suspicious of this guy. Wow, interested in knowing one of your own. Well, in here we're all enemies, so I can't fault you for that. Let's see, first Sabaku no Gaara. Kabuto then placed the card on the ground and passed chakra through it, revealing a very intricate chart with mission records, teammates, Junin-sensei and even a chart with the shinobi's main abilities. Well, he is a foreign shinobi, so records about him are quite scarce, mainly about his abilities. Teammates are Sabaku no Konkuro and Sabaku no Tamari, well, so they are siblings. Mission record is 1C ranked and WoW 8B ranked and he came by unscathed in all of them. A tough opponent indeed, though, only the genin elite from each village comes here, after all. The news was registered by Sasuke and even Naruto, who remembered the feeling he had when he looked at the Suna genin from this morning. Well, now, Uzumaki Naruto. When Kabuto was about to review Naruto's stats, a kunai drenched with wind chakra charged and stuck the card on the ground, slicing it cleanly in half before Kabuto could even read it. Naruto's rapid action surprised the rookie genin and even the rest who were busy observing the scene. This very moment, the team from Suna all looked at the blonde in attention, as all three noticed the usage of wind chakra and pinpoint accuracy. Hyuga Neji, Hinata's cousin, focused on Naruto and remembered him as his cousin's teammate. Neji remembered seeing Naruto on occasion inside their compound, but he hardly ever interacted with the rookie genin. Though, now, he found himself focusing on him more now. Sorry there, Kabuto-san, but I don't feel comfortable with you announcing to everyone here just what I can do. I hope you understand that and sorry for ruining your cards there. It was bad enough that this guy had such an info that should have been safely stored inside the Hokage's administration building. Kabuto appeared surprised for a while, but then relented with a flat smile. I understand, Naruto-san, my apologies and you're right, forgive me. Naruto's actions alone brought about loud murmuring as each and every shinobi in this room looked at whom they considered an opposition. Many strong shinobi and kunoichi spiked their chakra as they stared at each other. Sasuke, Neji, Gaara, Naruto, Neji and many others did the same. The rest couldn't help but sweat profusely at the high tension that suddenly enveloped the entire classroom. Ino couldn't help but cower slightly at the feeling while she looked at Sakura and Hinata, wondering if they felt the same way. Though, she was surprised to see the two girls matching what the others were doing. Ino looked at both their focused visages and realized how further than her Sakura and Hinata were. The tension stopped when a huge smoke enveloped the room from up front, before many Konoha Chunin appeared with the same uniform and one man leading them, with a black trench coat and face full of deep scars. Quiet down, everyone this instant. This was enough for everyone to stop flaring their chakra as the Jonin instructor named Morino Ibiki showed a full-out deranged smile. I deeply apologize for keeping you waiting. I'm Morino Ibiki and shall be the proctor of the first exam. And before I begin with the rules, I will state right now, there will be battles or fights without the permission of the proctors. This time, Ibiki even flared his own chakra, increasing his killing intent as he intoned. For those who believe they can try their luck right now, well, you shall deal with me personally. That alone managed to get everyone's attention, before Ibiki continued. Now, hand in your applications and take a seat under the numbers I shall hand to each of you. After that, we shall begin the written test. A few murmured about the absurdity of having a written exam, but did as demanded. Naruto observed that the proctors gave random numbers to the same genin team, which meant that he would be seated far from his teammates. It turned out that he was then seated next to Sasuke as the Uchiha kept glaring at him, probably because Naruto kept him from knowing more about his skills. So, Naruto sighed and turned to ignore the glare from his comrade in favor of paying attention to Ibiki while the other Chunin handed the tests to everyone. In no time, Ibiki stood alone in front of the classroom while the Chunin took chairs close to the room walls. Now hear me out, because I will only say it once, there are several important rules to this first test. Ibiki started, still with his killing intent high, keeping up the tension in the air. You all are given 10 points right from the start. The written test has 10 problems to solve, with 1 point each. And this test is a point deduction system. You are deducted 1 point for each problem you get wrong. If you get 3 wrong, you'll have 7 points. Now, Pass or failure will be determined by the total points of the three-person teams. At this point, everyone realized precisely why this exam needed to be taken in teams. If one failed, then the others would fail as well. Now, shut up everyone, because this is important. Those who are deemed by the Sentinels as having committed an act of cheating or something similar to that will have 2 points deducted for each act. It was at this point that these genin began to know about the sadist known as Morino Ibiki. As some of you might have guessed, yes, there may be those who will be dismissed during the test without waiting for the test grading. Ibiki now smiled just like the Chunin who were seated close to the genin. If you all aspire to become a Chunin at all, then know that shinobi should act like exemplary shinobi. Oh, and if one of the members of the team gets 0 points, then the entire team is disqualified. Like Ibiki expected and thrived off, the entire class shuddered at the rules. Well, Ibiki's chakra flaring didn't make things any easy. The last problem will be given 45 minutes after the start of the test. So this test is to be finished in 1 hour flat, no exceptions. Begin. The noise of pages turning and dead silence met the room as the genin looked at the questions. 5 minutes later, after reading all of the questions, it became clear that this system was beyond sadistic. The questions were quite complex and not many in this room would manage to answer it correctly. Still, the rules were quite clear in Naruto's mind. He began with 10 points and only needed to not score 0 in this test. He knew Shikamaru would ace this thing without the need to work up a sweat, and Hinata was quite smart as well. Naruto had more battle brains, but he figured that he could at least provide answers to 3 questions, maybe 4. What intrigued him, however, was the notion that he would only get a 2-point deduction for being caught cheating. So that alone was surprising, considering that when he was caught by Iruka-sensei once, the Chunin kicked him out immediately afterward. So this exam encourages cheating, and that's what that Ibiki guy said about acting as an exemplary shinobi. This is an information-gathering mission, the likes of which Kurenai-sensei often talked about. Quickly going about writing the answers he knew, Naruto then placed the pencil down as he observed the classroom around him. He observed the Chunin around the classroom and even the Jonin Ibiki up front, looking around. Each of the Chunin had a pencil and paper as well, probably to write down the genin who were caught cheating. And if one gets caught 5 times, then they are out. True to his guess, the Chunin next to him scribbled something on his paper. So the goal here may not be the questions itself, but cheating without getting caught. Like Naruto came to this conclusion, many of the others did so as well. Gaara commanded his san to make an artificial chakra eye to check on who had the answers. Kiba's dog Akamaru barked the answers to Kiba. Shino's bugs did the same. Sakura and Shikamaru were perhaps the only 2 who didn't need to cheat, as they answered all of the questions. Ino saw Shikamaru doing so and used her signature clan technique on the lazy Nara to take possession of him to check on Shikamaru's answers, before answering her own, before turning to Choji and doing the same, taking control of his body to answer for him. They were even those who had to rely on creativity, like Neji's teammate Tenten, a twin bun-haired girl wearing Chinese-style clothing who did so using mirrors to see Shino's answers. She had even managed to help her teammate Rock Lee, a bowl-haired genin with green leotard clothing. Throughout the test, the Chunin Sentinels announced the numbers of genin who were caught cheating 5 times, as these genin along with their teams were getting kicked out. Both Neji and Sasuke got the same idea with their respective dojutsu, with Neji looking past one who was answering all of the questions with his Byakugan. Sasuke with his Sharingan copied the same man's movements. Naruto noticed Sasuke doing so and turned to look at the Chunin next to him, fully focused on him. Going through the skills he had at this point, Naruto realized that he was rather limited right now. No ninjutsu would help him and fuinjutsu wouldn't help either. That only left genjutsu to use, and a smirk soon appeared on his face, before Naruto focused on the ram signal straight towards the Chunin who was looking at him. The Chunin looked to see what the blonde would do, but he just stood there looking at his test doing nothing. Little did he know that the Naruto he was observing was truly the false surroundings technique. The Naruto he was looking at was not the real one. The real one was peeking at Sasuke's test and following Sasuke's writing speed flawlessly. Being adept at fuinjutsu, Naruto needed to have a good enough calligraphy and fast enough to write the seals in the midst of battle. As such, it came easy for him to follow Sasuke's answers, before both finished at the same time. The Chunin in question widened his eyes as the real Naruto appeared in front of him, with his arms crossed instead of just focusing on his test holding the pencil. While he knew that this kid did something, he couldn't know what. Alright, I think we almost finished shaking off the losers. Ibiki's sudden voice made everyone focus on him and then looked around to see 40 perhaps 50 seats from the approximately 200 Chunin candidates. Now, it's time for the 10th question. Everyone tensed as Ibiki once more flared his chakra for effect. Before I give the 10th question, however, you guys will have to choose whether or not you will take the 10th question. If you choose not to take the 10th question, then your score will be 0, thus you and your team will be eliminated. Of course, the natural course of action would be to take the question. But herein lies the genius of Ibiki's madness and precisely why the man was considered Anbu's lead of torture and interrogation in Konoha. However, if you choose to take the 10th question and fail, Ibiki had paused, keeping up the tension to everyone, including the most experienced. Such is the psychological power this guy possessed. Then you relinquish the right of taking the Chunin exams forever. Hey, what the hell? What kind of rule is that? There are tons of genin here who have taken the exams before. Ibiki couldn't help but chuckle at Kiba's tantrum. He laughed and laughed hard, before spiking his killing intent, making Kiba buckle under the pressure. I guess you're just unlucky then, kid. It is I who make the rules this year. But I did give you all the options. If you decide not to risk your ninja career, then you can simply not take it and try again next time. Take the 10th question and fail, and you shall remain a genin for life. Ibiki had even chuckled evilly once more as he basked at the feeling of the terrified looks in front of him. Now, before I give the 10th question, I need you to raise your hands if you wish to forfeit. Those who stay put will then receive the question. Naruto observed as one by one, random genin left and right raised their hands, choosing not to endanger their careers. If he was true to himself, he was in a perilous situation right now. These questions were tough to answer, and if the 10th question is too hard for him to take it, then he would be a genin for life. But if he decided to quit right now, then they would have to leave as well. Well, it somewhat eased his mind at the thought that should he take it, he wouldn't be damaging their careers. Worst came to worst, only he would suffer the penalties, so he came with the resolve to stay and answer. In the end, no matter his ranking, Naruto will always strive to become stronger as the Nadime's legacy. And he couldn't picture his role model taking a different decision. The rest of the rookie genin knew about the odds and remained in their resolve to stay and answer it as well. Ibiki remained quiet as he could still see some raising his hands and quitting, until only 51 genin remained. Morino Ibiki smirked, knowing that his mission was accomplished. He received the acknowledgement of the Chunin and then addressed the classroom, now quite empty. Well, then, I like your determination. Now, for those who stayed, you pass. 5 seconds passed and most genin simply stopped breathing, their brains had simply stopped working for a while. Certainly, Shikamaru cursed this man even more than his own mother. Even if he was a genius, Shikamaru could very well get a question that he couldn't answer and he stays genin for life, and doing the same chores over and over again was way too troublesome. Naruto for his part allowed himself time to breathe properly. He wouldn't want to meet this guy anytime soon after this. Hold on, what are you talking about? What's the 10th question? This time, Ibiki had stopped flaring his chakra and transformed from the sadist interrogator to a completely different person, smiling broadly at the question. Well, you can look at the choice you had to make as the 10th question. This test's objective above all else started with your ability to gather information. It was never about the questions itself, so no one will be grading your answers here. As to the 10th question, well, it was indeed an unfair question. It was to test your resolve as future Chunin. There will be missions where you won't know what will happen to either you or your teammates. What do you do then? Decide to flee to save your life or go through it knowing you could walk into a death trap? The lesson was then clear to everyone as Ibiki finished. Showing your courage to your teammates in a tight spot and the ability to get through the hardships as the qualities of Chunin captain. Naruto observed this man intently and he saw many of Tobirama's qualities in Ibiki. Despite Tobirama's methods to inspire fear were more physical, Ibiki's was by no means less effective, and his heart is on the right path. Ibiki then turned to the window just as a black ball came barging inside. The man observed the window shards headed for the opposition, before his vision became impaired as the black ball turned to be a black flag. The assailant opened with 2 kunai thrown upwards that stuck on the roof, before Mitarashi Anko emerged with such grace that baffled everyone. Naruto remembered the woman from the Dango place and couldn't help but smile at the theatrics. There is no time to celebrate yet, maggots. I'm the proctor of the second exam, Mitarashi Anko. Follow me. Ibiki then appeared behind the flag containing Anko's name written in white. You're late again, Anko. The woman in question deflated at her superior, before looking at the number of genin still present. Oh, only 51, you weren't kidding around, huh, Ibiki? You expected something different, huh? I guess not. Anko concluded, before turning to the class once more. Well, then, alright, I'll drop more than half of these losers in the second exam. Anko said was with a smirk that promised a great level of pain. So, the details regarding location and time will be handed to your Jonin and we shall meet tomorrow. Everyone is dismissed. Chapter 13 Chunin Exams Part 2. As instructed by Anko, Naruto and his team had met with Asuma after the exam and received the location of where to be for the second exam. The bearded Junin had then congratulated his team on passing the first barrier. Since Asuma couldn't tell much about the second part, the only thing he could say was a pep talk about trusting each other and acting as a team. After their brief encounter, to which Asuma had left saying he needed to meet the Hokage for something, Naruto then received an invitation by Kurenai to join her, Hinata and Yakumo for dinner in her house. Shikamaru was invited as well, but like Kurenai's own team, he preferred to go home and rest for tomorrow. So, after stocking up on some general supplies through the swift use of genjutsu, Naruto had knocked on Kurenai's door for the first time. Her apartment was just one of the many similar 2-room apartments in a building reserved for shinobi. Though, as he stepped on the floor of her apartment, Naruto couldn't help but compare with his own building. The hallway only had one light and it barely worked, probably due to poor maintenance. Well, perhaps her home is better looking than this. No sooner had he knocked, Kurenai had already opened the door, inviting him inside. The Junin sensei's casual clothes were composed of short beige pants barely covering her knees, long black shirt worn beneath a loose red fabric. Ah, welcome Naruto-kun. We were having a bet to see if you would be late. Come in, come in. Naruto greeted the sensei with a wave as he got inside the apartment, and like he guessed, it was way better than the creepy hallway. Hi Kurenai sensei, I just wanted to stock up on supplies for the second part tomorrow. Is Hinata here already? The sensei ushered him inside, before closing the door behind him. Yes, she is helping me and Yakumo prepare dinner. Please make yourself at home, Naruto-kun. Dinner will be right up. The genin acknowledged the hospitality and observed as the sensei went back to the kitchen. As soon as Naruto took a seat on her couch, Hinata's neck surged through the kitchen door as she saw her senpai take a seat by Kurenai's couch. Good evening Naruto-kun, you came. Naruto was busy looking around the living room and even peeking on some of Kurenai's library when he looked at Hinata. Oh hi Hinata, yeah, sorry I took so long, just that I needed to restock some. The reserved Hyuga simply acknowledged with a fond smile as she took a seat on the chair opposite the couch where Naruto was sitting. You don't need to apologize Naruto-kun, you're right on time. So, what did you buy? Anything I should get as well? Naruto chuckled as Hinata placed her hands on her knees while sitting. While she had evolved from her shyness, it was still there. Well, Asuma-sensei was of course quite vague about the exams tomorrow, so I just bought the usual, shuriken, kunai, fuinjutsu kit, plus some general supplies. Did Kurenai-sensei say something about it? Now why would I do that Naruto-kun? That would be cheating, wouldn't it? Kurenai walked in the living room carrying the dinner trays together with Yakumo, who for her turn greeted Naruto and Naruto greeted back, before smirking towards the sensei. Yeah, it would, though if you said anything, it would be to your team, not us. Kurenai and the rest laughed at his comment. Plus, Anko-san happens to be your best friend, so clearly you would know something. Yakumo and Hinata just looked at each other and smiled as Naruto and Kurenai talked to each other. The Junin, for her part, ushered everyone to take a sit by the table, while addressing Naruto. Forget it Naruto-kun, Anko is tight-lipped about it, and even if she did, I would never betray her trust with this. Now, dig up everyone. The 3 genin did as instructed as the 4 occupants chatted amicably with each other, about a great range of topics. Most of them were about the first test and how Naruto and Hinata had managed to survive Morino Ibiki's psychological warfare disguised in a 10-question written test. While Hinata using Byakugan was pretty much guessed by Kurenai and Yakumo, both illusion users were surprised when Naruto said that he used the very craft to get by. It came as a surprise to Hinata as well, since the team had yet to talk much about what each did to pass by, though Hinata knew that Shikamaru was too much of a genius to need any kind of subterfuge. You used genjutsu, Naruto-kun. How interesting, tell us. Naruto nodded at Kurenai's ponder as he turned to Yakumo and Hinata. Well, yeah, I'll admit I was stuck otherwise. Many of the skills I have are more battle-oriented. Elemental ninjutsu would be useless, any wind jutsu would simply blow all of the tests on the ground, including mine. So, I saw that one of the Chunin was focusing on me the entire time. That gave me the opportunity to disrupt his senses, so to speak, make him see me doing something else other than checking on Sasuke's answers, who by the way was using his Sharingan to copy the answers from someone else. To Hinata, the concept was still foreign, but Yakumo and Kurenai both nodded in acknowledgement, knowing what the blonde genin did. The Junin sensei finished gathering the plates from the table with everyone's help. I can see you improved then. When you first showed it to me, you couldn't maintain the illusion for more than half a minute. Naruto scratched the back of his head in acknowledgement of his limit. His fast scribbling based on Fuinjutsu did the rest. Yeah, I had that timeframe window to write as many answers as possible, before the illusion faded. Kurenai chuckled at that. Well, good work. Now stay put you 3, I will bring us some tea for the night. Naruto then hung out with Yakumo and Hinata. Naruto, then, turned to the Kurama heir. So Yakumo, why didn't you apply for the exams? I wanted to, but there was no team with a 3rd member short. Naruto and Hinata observed as Kurenai came and gave everyone some herbal tea. I had already placed my name to Hokage-sama for the next exams, though. Perhaps, one of the genin from your classroom can be promoted and that would open a spot for me to join. Though, I wouldn't be surprised if you were promoted, Naruto. The sudden praise was met with surprise by the blonde genin, though no one, Hinata, Kurenai or even Yakumo, had much doubt that Naruto had enough skill to be eligible for the promotion, if his team passes the 2nd and 3rd steps of the exams, that is. Naruto then remembered his talk with Asuma and how he was viewed by his peers. He also saw recognition from Kurenai's tender eyes at him, though the Junin recognized doubt in Naruto's. As the night progressed, Hinata and Yakumo shifted to their own conversation, so Naruto and Kurenai turned to talk to each other. Is there something you wish to ask, Naruto-kun? The look of doubt became transparent once more and someone with a keen eye for details picked up immediately. Naruto had lots of secrets in his life, but he could at least be open about his concerns, just like he had with Asuma before the exams. Just wondering about what Yakumo said about me having what it takes to be a Chunin. Kurenai nodded as she crossed her legs with an open posture while holding her cup of tea. Asuma-sensei had explained that a Chunin are squad leaders, being responsible for the lives of my team. I only wonder if I truly have what it takes, you know. The Junin did remember the time when she had this conversation, when she was in Naruto's position. Even now, being a recently promoted Junin, she constantly feels the weight of leading her genin team and sometimes having to choose between the safety of her team, which is a must, and finishing the mission. Now looking at him, Kurenai could offer some encouragement moving forward. Though like Asuma, she had faith that Naruto would do just fine. I see, well, truly it's something to ponder about as we all move forward. Naruto was looking down and then focused on his senior for her words of wisdom. Moving from genin to Chunin is not only about skill, as I trust Asuma had explained to you. And being a leader is quite a complex skill to develop. It's bad enough that we have to figure this out in the middle of a mission, though I don't believe that the Hokage would give you a mission above C rank to lead right off the bat. Naruto looked uncertain still and Kurenai smiled at it. Everything is going to be okay, Naruto. Being a leader above all is to have the respect of those who follow you. And I can see as everyone does that your peers respect you. You always go out of your way to help most of them, and look how much you helped both Hinata and Yakumo already. Even Sakura and Sasuke, from what I hear from Kakashi. Kurenai was now more thrilled to see the light coming back from Naruto's light cerulean eyes at her words, and she realized to herself that she enjoyed seeing that gleam in his eyes. Such drive added by such an exponential growth is quite rare to see. It only made her all the more excited to just sit back and observe his growth as a shinobi and now as a person. Thank you, Kurenai-sensei. Her smile was so exuberant that he couldn't help but confide with her and perhaps even open up fully to her about everything in the future. For now, the focus shall be on passing the exams, but should you receive the promotion, your growth will rise exponentially. And as Junin-sensei will always be here for you to talk to, if need be. Yeah, it's no use worrying about something while the exams are still in play. And I appreciate the help, Kurenai-sensei, truly. I just hope that I can help you as well, someday. Once more, he surprised her with that tenacity of his. It was a Junin's obligation to help the next generation of shinobi. But above all else, for her especially, it was considered a privilege to have this opportunity. Plus, she could see how attentive he was to her every word, not only in genjutsu training, but also when she offered her wisdom in personal matters. Throughout our lives, there will be situations when I will help you, Naruto-kun, and in others, you will help me. Work hard, become a Chunin, and, who knows, perhaps we can go together on missions in the future and we can have each other's backs. The thought became so vivid that Naruto was engrossed in imagining them fighting side by side just like they did when they rescued Yakumo. I certainly look forward to when this day arrives, Kurenai-sensei. The comment brought about a comfortable nod from the sensei, knowing, or rather hoping, that Naruto will keep surprising her every time. Soon, Naruto and Hinata said their goodbye, since they needed to rest for tomorrow. He then walked together with Hinata towards the Hyuga compound and then to his house. Next day. The next day, the 17 genin teams were gathered around in a clearing while waiting for the second exam proctor Mitarashi Anko to explain this part. The woman, with her beige overcoat, just stood there with her arms crossed while observing everyone, talking with each other. She could feel, though, the general mood and shivered in anticipation for what was to come soon for them. The fact that neither of them even knew what awaits brought a sense of excitement that made her tingle all over. The thought of the perils, the pain, the hardship that these poor souls will suffer soon enough, after the start of the exam. The woman was exuding such a bloodthirsty aura that for those who knew her, began to shiver at the sight of the woman practically salivating. True enough, the Chunin that aided her with the exam knew about her reputation and couldn't help but take an unconscious step back. Okay everyone, gather around, because I won't be repeating myself here. Her announcement brought everyone's attention, before Anko uncrossed her arms and placed her hands on her waist. As you know, this is the site of the second exam, training field number 44. The woman was a fan of the theatrics and the suspense, so she just smiled mischievously at everyone, before finishing. Also known as the Forest of Death. The wind picked up and all the genin stood at attention as they now took a good look at the huge forest that began just behind the fences. Just by seeing the tall trees and the fact that the trees' roots alone toppled the fence, brought great shivers to the uninitiated. The genin could see the warning signs of, "Do not enter," all over the fences, filled with giant locks. Plus, the fact that giant centipedes and snakes could be seen crawling around the tree logs feasting on the unsuspected prey sufficed for an explanation. The sense of dread was clear to everyone and only a fool would not heed the warnings in this place. Before we start, though, there's something important I must pass out to you all. Anko then reached inside her overcoat and pulled a pile of written papers. This is a consent form. Before you can take part in the test, you all have to sign this. Consent forms, what for? Anko turned to see Kakashi's genin Kiba asking and smirked. Well, from here on out, corpses are going to come out. From here on out, there is the possibility of you guys dying, so that would be on my responsibility. I can't have that, you know, so you will need to sign, waving Konoha of the responsibility. The fact that Anko started laughing after that was even more scary and Naruto was starting to wonder which psycho was the worst, Anko or Ibiki. The beige overcoat Kunoichi may be friends with Kurenai-sensei, but Naruto knew bits and pieces about the woman who played with snakes. Needless to say, he never wanted to be on her bad side. Not her nor Ibiki for that matter. As the consent forms were passed along by the genin, which needed to be signed and delivered to the chunin in the tent next to Anko, the proctor now began the real explanation. Okay then, now I shall explain, in a word, the limits of your survival will be challenged. First, allow me to explain about the terrain. Anko then opened up a map. Training Field 44 is surrounded by 44 locked entrance gates. There is a river and a forest and a tower in the middle of the field. The distance to the tower is about 10 kilometers from the gates. In this confined area, you will go through a certain survival program. In other words, pretty much anything goes beyond these gates, a scroll battle. Once more, the shiver returned as the genin looked at each other, most of them knowing what that meant. Permission to kill. Essentially, I want you to fight for 2 scrolls, the Heaven Scroll and the Earth Scroll. There are 17 teams here, so 9 teams shall receive the Heaven Scroll and 8 will receive the Earth Scroll. The objective, as you may have figured out, is for the genin team to reach the tower, but the team will only pass if they manage to bring in both scrolls. In essence, it's expected that at least half of the genin teams will fail or even worse. Shikamaru had to release a sigh, wondering if it's still time to make a quick getaway and cloud gaze. One more thing, there is a time limit to this exam. Once more, Shikamaru sighed. Of course, there is a time limit, troublesome. For this second exam, the time limit shall be 120 hours. You all will have precisely 5 days to reach the tower. At this, both Ino and Choji protested, of course, for different reasons. 5 days. What do we do about food? Anko merely smiled at that. Well, this is a forest filled with flora and fauna of various species. You can all hunt and drink, this is a survival course. There are plenty of animals in there for you all to hunt if needed, though sometimes the animals and even some plants may see you all as prey, so I would tread carefully if I were you, or not. Choji and Ino both shivered as the woman showed quite the devious smile. Now, all there is to explain are the rules for qualification. First, like I said before, the team must all reach the tower within the time frame. If 1 or 2 members are injured or dead, then the team fails. Also, absolutely do not look at the contents of the scrolls at least until you have reached the tower. So, please do not try to find out, I'm serious here. There are times when a chunin must deal with super secret text. It serves to test your reliability. There were a few murmurs amongst the genin as they heard the explanation. Okay, that's enough for the explanations. All it's left is to exchange the consent forms with the scroll your team will receive. So, go to that tent over there and do that. After that, you are to reach the designated gate. The genin had a 10-minute break to go over the consent forms while the chunin organized the tent to initiate the exam. Naruto, Shikamaru and Hinata had all chosen different spots to go over the terms of the consent form, but most of what Anko had explained was already in there, so the time was mostly spent in making the conscious choice of going forward with it despite the warnings and risks. After that, the teams went inside the tent one by one, until all of the teams received their respective scrolls. All that was left was to go to the designated gate and start the exam. Training ground 44 . No sooner had the gates opened, Naruto, Hinata and Shikamaru quickly ran inside the forest of death and stopped before running for 5 minutes and finding a secure location for planning purposes. They had found a tall enough tree which roots grew above the ground, allowing them to crawl inside. The team got the Earth Scroll, which meant that they needed to find the Heaven Scroll and then march straight to the tower. Right now, Hinata was activating her Byakugan in short intervals for threats and Naruto was abusing his sensor capabilities for both enemy teams and dangerous fauna and flora in this place. A few minutes ago, the team had passed a giant snake feasting itself with some rabbits. This snake was large enough to eat them if it wanted to, so, neither of them could afford to relax. Okay then Shikamaru, it's time for you to shine here. What's the plan? The Nara's eyebrow twitched at his blonde friend. Why do I have to come up with a strategy, here? This time, Naruto's eyebrow twitched, but he did respond with patience. Oh, I don't know, perhaps it's because you had already come up with dozens of possible scenarios in your head about how to proceed. You're the team strategist Shika, I don't think I need to stress that point and I know Hinata concurs with me. Shikamaru looked at his Hyuga teammate and saw her nod with a content smile, directed mostly at him. "Ah, fine," Naruto hummed, and Hinata giggled, before Shikamaru briefly closed his eyes, took a long breath, and got into strategy mode. "I don't feel like remaining in this troublesome forest any more than necessary. Aside from facing enemies and whatever it is in these woods, having to worry about food and sleeping just isn't a safe course of action to take." Naruto and Hinata looked at each other and neither found much to object to the basic principle. Which meant that Shikamaru wanted to reach the tower today. "It's fine by me, though we still have to find a way to reach the tower, Shikamaru. It's not like we have a map with us." Shikamaru already knew that, hence he had opted for one of the possible ways to figure out. "Hinata, can you see the tower with your Byakugan?" The girl from the team, though, negated as she had already attempted that when she first activated the eyes to see close threats. "Ah, Anko-san said that the tower is 10 kilometers from here. Though some in my clan can extend their reach to 10 kilometer long, I can only see 1 kilometer. Shikamaru acknowledged that with a as he then looked right and left for a while. "That's fine, I have other means of finding the right path, but we have to take advantage of sunlight as much as possible. I don't care much for food and water. So as we proceed, Naruto shall use your sensor skills to pick up a couple of teams that we can face fast without much trouble. I believe you know the teams to steer away from, don't you?" Naruto nodded at that, marveling at the speed of analysis from his teammate. Naruto could be strong on the field and face most opponents in a fight, but Shikamaru had plans in spades. If anyone could be spotted as a future leader in missions, he would point at the lazy Nara without much doubt. The only negative was his laziness. "Yeah, one of the genin from Suna. He has red hair and carries a gourd on his back. Plus, that Kabuto we talked to early in the first phase was hiding something. So, yeah, I would pick these two teams to steer clear from if we wish to reach the tower today." "Okay, noted. Now, let us proceed. Naruto, can you get us some Kage Bunshin and follow us using Henge? Hinata, keep activating the Byakugan to help Naruto's sensor skills pick up our enemies." Naruto and Hinata did as instructed, before the team charged forward. Shikamaru already had a map in his mind of this place memorized. It was a clear rounded territory, so choosing a straight path was out of the question. First, they could get lost along the way and face more opposition both from the forest and from the enemies. And Naruto and Hinata were perfect for figuring the right path ahead. Despite her saying that her reach was limited, her Byakugan helped out a great deal in changing course slightly. Plus, every now and then, Shikamaru would ask Naruto to climb the tallest tree he could find and try to see the tower from up there. Of course, Naruto had to choose the very tree where he had to battle giant centipedes with his sword, but he could tell Shikamaru that their path was taking them closer to the tower. As soon as he dropped and reached his teammates on the ground, Shikamaru and Hinata were dragged away by Naruto's Kage Bunshin envoy to protect them from a rain of projectiles, while the real one blocked a couple of incoming shuriken. His sensor abilities picked up on the usage of chakra as soon as he reached the ground, and his clones worked fast in protecting his peers. Still, based on the projectile's trajectory, Naruto pinpointed the enemy's location, while turning to Hinata and Shikamaru. This time, he would take the lead as a fight ensued. "Hinata, can you see them?" Her Byakugan was activated before Naruto asked her as she nodded and pointed to a few branches upward. As soon as she did so, a team of Iwagakure ninja appeared from thin air, charging the Konoha team with a kunai. Their image was still distorted, though, forcing Naruto and Hinata to take the initiative, Hinata with her Byakugan and Naruto with his sensor skills. The Bunshin stood close to Shikamaru, who had already grabbed some shuriken to act as support for his teammates. Still, he had only his own teammates to work with, as he could not see the opponents. They only knew they were from Iwa, because Shikamaru could see one of the headbands briefly. Still, Shikamaru observed that Naruto and Hinata were handling them just fine from close range. Naruto was facing 2-on-1 and Hinata the third, allowing Shikamaru to observe and wait for the opportunity to strike. Like a sniper waiting for the target to appear in his aim, Shikamaru's eyes saw the sudden drop of blood emerge from Naruto's sword, before Shikamaru's shuriken traveled at the target. His accuracy proved fatal as the shuriken hit the enemy genin straight on his chest, forcing the genin to stop the camouflage jutsu he was using. Naruto saw this and capitalized on the opportunity granted by Shikamaru. His sword worked fast and sliced the enemy in many places at once, using the wind element. The genin was down for the count, bleeding badly, but still not dead. The others looked at his teammate bleeding heavily, so Hinata worked fast in using her Juken to seal the other two's tenketsus before they could check on their teammate. Shikamaru was there to bind them with his shadow, while Naruto tied them up, close to the one who was bleeding heavily. Now comes the hard part, here. Naruto eyes Shikamaru. Just defeating them wasn't enough, they needed to take their scroll as well, and that would involve some coercion. Still, he could at least start out civil. I don't suppose you guys could hand in your scroll peacefully, right? The three from Iowa were bruised and one was bleeding all over, but none of them would be so stupid as to give the scroll willingly, and Naruto could see it in their eyes. Neither Hinata nor Shikamaru would know how to play the tough guy here. Hinata has improved, sure, but she wouldn't do anything to harm someone after defeating them, and Shikamaru's bored look just couldn't threaten them much. So, Naruto took some breaths to clear his head and turned to incorporate the Nadaime Hokage's leveled stare at them. The sudden spike of his chakra and even killing intent surprised his own teammates, while Naruto focused on the downed Iowa team. So far, only one of them was in dire condition, the other two had only their tenketsus closed by Hinata, but that could change as Naruto once more charged wind chakra through his sword. Throughout his life, Naruto had many role models to follow, and these last few days allowed him to study both Ibiki and Anko up close for their methods. He figured that mixing it up, playing with the mind as well as pain, would go along well. Now, I have a couple of skills I'd like to try on the both of you, but it would save us both some time and less blood on your part if you cooperate. Hinata tried to brace herself because the killing intent wasn't directed at her, but she was scared because she had never seen Naruto like this before. Shikamaru, though, had to help her, because this was necessary for their objective, so he just placed a comforting hand on her shoulder, urging her to trust their teammate. The three from Iowa began to stir from their seats as Naruto approached them with slow steps while holding his wind chakra sword. Starting with your bleeding friend here, I could inflict even more pain on him, if you don't hand in the scroll. As proof of his threats, Naruto had touched the genin's right arm and it caused a small slash, earning more pain. Or I could perhaps, I don't know, use you guys as practice for a nifty skill I learned recently. Naruto then placed his sword back on the seal where it came from and worked through hand seals, before focusing on their genin's minds. The three enemies from Iowa suddenly saw as giant centipedes crawled from behind them and entrapped them using its bodies, earning three frightened screams of fright as they saw the giant insect's fangs about to decapitate them. Okay, you win, here is the scroll, now leave us alone. Naruto, Hinata and Shikamaru just observed when the team from Iowa began to scream at nothing. Hinata and Shikamaru knew that their teammate had a large array of abilities, but to see it being used like this, well, it showed to them that perhaps the Naruto that they knew was barely the tip of the iceberg. Still, Shikamaru grabbed the scroll, which sadly was the same as what they had, and the team left once more, towards their path to the tower. They still had to search for another team to take the Heaven Scroll. As they progressed, Hinata was looking at her blonde teammate in fright. The feeling she had when Naruto spiked his chakra and killing intent, plus the way Naruto handled the interrogation, it made her chest hurt at witnessing it. Naruto then looked briefly at Hinata and saw her hesitance. He sighed, figuring why she was looking hesitant at him. Shikamaru, we should stop for a while. The Nara looked at both his teammates and then at Naruto, who nodded at him with a silent request. I will check the perimeter for a while, I'll be right back. Hinata and Naruto observed as Shikamaru walked away from them. Right now, Naruto and Hinata were close to a stream and Hinata was seen holding her hands close to her chest, while her eyes tried not to look at her blonde companion right now. I'm sorry for what you had to witness, Hinata. The reserved Hyuga now had his full attention as he approached her. It was never my intention to scare you or take things too far. I wouldn't resort to physical pain any more than what I did. It's all right, Naruto-kun. I know it was necessary, but Naruto was surprised when he tried to place a comforting hand on her shoulder, and he saw her body flinch at the contact. I can't say it was necessary, but I would do that once more if it meant that neither of you two has to. Hinata, this time, had looked at him straight in the eyes for now, wondering what he meant by that. Asuma-sensei and Kurenai-sensei had talked to me plenty about what it means to be a Chunin, Hinata. Being a leader, being responsible for the mission as well as the lives of my team, I don't know if I already have what it takes. And this exam, I can see that these types of scenarios we are in right now will repeat itself in the future. As a leader, I will have to make choices that may affect the mission, choices that may affect the lives of the team. I stepped up and tried to emulate the other proctors, you know. As well, as you Tobirama-sensei. Naruto-kun, the genin in question looked at Hinata once more and breathed when he saw that she wasn't scared of him anymore. I have no doubt that you will be a great Chunin and I'm sorry for feeling this way. There is no need to apologize, Hinata. Let us move forward towards our goal and then take some rest afterward. Hinata nodded, this time more relieved as Shikamaru returned with new coordinates for them to follow. The same pattern followed once more with the team on the move. As they progressed, this time, they had to face a giant bear that crossed their path. Working as a team, Shikamaru trapped the giant animal with his shadow binding. Hinata used Jukin to hit some chakra and pressure points, before Naruto sent the creature to dreamland with a swift kick on the back of its neck. After that, Shikamaru cursed seeing the sun was about to set for the day. Hinata ended up being a lifesaver for the team as she activated her Byakugan. Shikamaru, I see the tower a few meters to the right. The Nara genin released a sigh in relaxation at the notion that they had managed to locate their destination and in record time no less. The problem was that they were still due to find another team with the scroll they needed to finish the assignment. Hinata, Naruto, can you tell if there's another team nearby? We still need to get a heaven scroll to get inside the tower. Hinata then expanded her Byakugan as per Shikamaru's request for a while, before her eyes landed on a team also heading towards the tower from their opposite direction. Seeing as they were pressed for time, Team 10 ran towards the tower to meet up with the opposite team, hoping that they had the scroll they were looking for, or else they would have to spend the night outside. The sun at this point had already begun to set and they had barely half an hour of sunlight. Because of this, Shikamaru urged Naruto to kick it up a notch and help them get the scroll faster. The blonde genin had already sensed the team he would be up against and knew that they didn't represent much threat. So, he urged Shikamaru and Hinata to stay close to the tower and wait for him to return. A team from Taki was running in record time, all three of them looking like grown-ups already. They had great luck, finding one green team from Kumogakure with the scroll they needed to advance. Plus, they could see the tower up ahead from their path, meaning that they would be acing this exam and jumping straight to the third and last phase. They were surprised when a blast of wind came barreling in on them. Still, all three genin were experienced enough to stick to the ground with chakra as the wind blast passed through them. Some cuts could be seen on their arms and limbs, but otherwise they were unscathed. All three stood back to back with kunai in their hands while observing where the enemy or enemies would come. Naruto observed the three from atop a tree and went through a sequence of hand seals. This forest was almost damped in humidity, allowing him a great source of water to use from. Still, he had summoned 3 cage buncheons to follow up on the attack, as soon as he finished the hand signs, finished by the praying sign. Suiden Sushoha, water release, water shockwave technique. The 3 genin from Taki looked up in surprise as a gigantic water geyser erupted up into the air, before falling down on them like a hammer from the sky. The amount of water was indescribable, and it dragged them together. So unfocused were they from being dragged by the strong water current, that neither of them screamed in pain when 3 blurs carrying swords descended from the trees and pierced their stomachs. Naruto's buncheons had then quickly dragged them away from the water current and searched for their possessions to see which one had the scroll. His attacks weren't life-threatening, though they were bleeding profusely. But, using the Sushoha took a lot of control from him, and like Shikamaru, Naruto was eager to get inside the tower and be done with this test. As such, when he found 2 scrolls, one heaven and one earth, he released a sigh in relaxation, before going back to the place where his teammates were waiting for him. Hinata and Shikamaru were just resting near the tower on the lookout for Naruto to return. Shikamaru had a feeling that sending in Naruto alone would be faster than them together facing this team. Ever since they graduated, Shikamaru had the feeling that their teammate was hiding his true strength. Throughout their missions together, Shikamaru could see that Naruto would always show a new skill or even display an improved version of the skills he had already shown. But to this day, the Nara genius had yet to truly see everything that Naruto could do. Shika-kun, do you think it's wise to send Naruto-kun in alone? He looked at the clear concerned look from Hinata's eyes and nodded. Pretty sure, Hinata, you of all people should know what he is capable of. Plus, I get the feeling that both of us would hold him down. Hinata did know that. She knew that he was stronger than he showed, certainly stronger than all of them, but she couldn't help but worry either way. You can see him with your Byakugan, can't you? The Hyuga Genin nodded and used her all-seeing eye to see an Naruto walking towards their location. She could relax now seeing that his outfit appeared rugged but no visible injury. He is coming back. Shikamaru smiled at her happier tone, before the blonde emerged from the foliage behind them, throwing both of the scrolls he had collected to Shikamaru. Great, now let's get inside the tower and end this troublesome exam. Quickly opening one of the many double doors, the team walked inside the tower and explored inside until they stood inside an empty hallway with two opposed platforms upward and a board in front of them, with an inscription. Shikamaru couldn't help but groan at the thought of yet another puzzle to solve before truly completing the second phase. Naruto was the one who read it out loud. If heaven does not exist, enrich your knowledge, and prepare for the chance. If earth does not exist, run the fields and search for an advantage, open the series of heaven and earth and the perilous way shall be addressed. This is namely the secret of the one that guides. What does that mean, Shika? The Nara genius crossed his arms as he pondered on the phrases. While he could certainly work out the meaning behind them in due time, there was simply no intel he remembered Anko saying about this. The only item still left unattended would be the scrolls now in their possession. I don't know, but perhaps the scrolls have something to do with this. We couldn't open the scrolls before entering the tower, but now that we are inside, perhaps it's time to open them. Naruto and Hinata eyed the scrolls and they nodded to each other before opening them at the same time. The summoning kanji inscribed in both scrolls were clear to the Fuinjutsu user as Naruto urged Hinata to throw the scroll on the ground, before both scrolls joined in a cross, before smoke erupted. The blonde remembered this summoning scroll design similar to the one the Nadaime taught him to hide the scroll containing the Nadaime's teachings. When the smoke cleared, it revealed a man wearing a Chunin attire and a blue bandana on his head and eyes that were similar to Hinata's. Ko-san, is that you? What are you doing here? The Hyuga Chunin in question greeted the team with a wave. Hello there Hinata-sama, your team was quite fast to reach the tower. While it wasn't the first team to arrive, you were definitely the second. Us Chunin were tasked with welcoming the Genin teams who reached the tower and Hiyashi-sama asked me personally to be the one to welcome your team here. Hinata ran and gave Ko a hug, to which the Chunin returned with a smile on his face. After the greeting, Ko announced to the team congratulations for passing the second phase of the Chunin exams and explained to them the meaning of the inscription above them, before telling them that they had the rest of the 5 days to rest while the rest of the teams finished the exam. Chapter 14 Preliminaries and Training. It was already well past midnight, and the second exams were well underway with the teams already finishing the second phase. In most situations, the Chunin hopefuls were battling amongst each other for the scrolls, but this exam just got some serious situations occurring that made one Mitarashi Anko rubbing a strange-looking mark on her shoulder. She was currently inside a room filled with monitors together with 2 Chunin proctors as well as the Sandaime Hokage. No sooner had she reported what happened to the village leader, he had met her and quickly added some new layers of protection around the 3-shaped seal on her shoulder. Still, it was not enough to fully erase the pain as she kept on rubbing on it to go away. Is it better? The Junin proctor released a slight curse before covering her shoulder with her trench coat. A bit better now, thank you Hokage-sama. The elder leader grunted, before puffing some smoke from his pipe. Is there anything else you can tell me about why he had decided to infiltrate these exams, Anko-chan? The mere mention of that name was enough to make her snarl, before the memory of her pathetic display was brought to surface. To believe that after all this time, that man merely toyed with her, still, The only intel she could remember was what the S-rank missing nin and probably Konoha's worst criminal, Orochimaru, said to her. He mentioned having an interest in the last heir of the Uchiha clan, Uchiha Sasuke. Hiruzen Sarutobi really couldn't be surprised. From the knowledge he had on his former student, it was obvious that the man desired the Sharingan. The dojutsu, that once fully evolved, can literally copy genjutsu, ninjutsu, taijutsu and kenjutsu moves. Pretty much all of the shinobi arts opened up to a Sharingan user by sight alone. Anko and the Chunin looked at their leader in suspense for a while, wondering what he was thinking. Orochimaru was one of the Sannin, a team personally tutored by the very Sandaime Hokage into greatness, perhaps the strongest shinobi of Konoha after the Hokage himself. And for this person to be here right now when Konoha's gates became open for the exams, the snake knew what he was doing by revealing himself like this. He wanted to cause panic. And right now, Hiruzen couldn't anticipate everything his former student is capable of doing. Anko-san. The group turned to one of the monitors as one of the Chunin gave her a message. The second exam is over, and 21 contesters managed to pass. As for the third exam, according to the regulations of the Chunin exams, preliminaries are planned for the first time in 5 years. After the message was delivered, the monitor was turned off and the Hokage turned to Anko and the other Chunin. For now, continue the exam as it is, while keeping an eye on his movements. The tension in the room was palpable and Anko was more in favor of calling off the exams, but she knew the responsibilities of hosting these exams. Calling it off would have been the sensitive decision to make, but she knew the damage it would do to Konoha's reputation if the Hokage made that decision. The hidden villages were at best in a civil war with each other, competing amongst each other for clients and revenues. Doing so would drive many of Konoha's clients to other villages. Next morning Inside the tower, everyone that pertained to the Chunin exam was there. The genin who managed to pass the exams, the Chunin proctors, Anko, the Junin responsible for the genin who passed and finally the Hokage. Despite fulfilling her promise to at least cut the genin candidates by half, Anko firmly believed that fewer genin would finish this exam, which proved the contestants' skills to have come this far. Certainly, the Hokage thought amongst the same lines as he turned to the 3 Junin of the rookie teams, now understanding why they advocated so fiercely for their respective teams. The genin, for their part, looked at each other. Naruto's team was perhaps the exception from the Konoha teams, since none of them suffered too much to get to the tower. The others, though, had suffered plenty, that much he could tell based on the rugged and bloodied outfits. Also, he could tell by their chakra capacities, that some could barely stand. His focus, however, was mostly on Team 7. Sakura's hair was shorter than he remembered, and her red dress was ripped in multiple places. Kiba's dog Akamaru was whimpering inside Kiba's jacket and his outfit was in shambles as well. Sasuke, however, Naruto could tell, was the worst of the 3. Naruto could tell that his chakra was in complete disarray and Sasuke was also holding his shoulder the entire time. Just what happened out there to make them like this? As a matter of fact, Naruto wasn't the only one focusing on Sasuke, as certainly Sakura and Kiba were looking at him in concern as they had witnessed what happened in the forest. How Sasuke was manhandled by the Kusa genin who turned out to be a man named Orochimaru. Sasuke had put up a tough fight with his 2 Tomo Sharingan and with his expertise in fire ninjutsu, but the enemy was far too powerful for him alone to deal with. In the end, Orochimaru had done something to Sasuke, biting him and giving him that strange mark on his shoulder. Kiba and Sakura still trembled at the memory of seeing the dark and malevolent purple energy that came out of Sasuke when the team from Sound attacked. The others were also looking at Sasuke, mainly Anko, Ibiki and the Hokage. More precisely, the fact that Orochimaru had given Sasuke the same seal that he gave Anko. So it's true then. Ibiki and Anko nodded at the Hokage's assessment. We should remove him from the exams and isolate him with Anbu bodyguards on him. Before the Hokage could give his assessment, Kakashi approached them with an aloof smile on his face. Well, he's not really the type to just obey like that, he is of the Uchiha clan after all. Anko snarled immediately at the Scarecrow Junin. What are you talking nonsense for? I'll make him stop by force if necessary. The curse mark responds even when one's just building up chakra and attempts to forcibly extract his strength. Anko even rubbed her shoulders, revealing her own cursed seal, as she finished. It's a prohibited jutsu that eats into the body of the one who uses a jutsu. It's a wonder that this kid's even enduring it. He should really be dead. Anko then turned to the Hokage, who was busy focusing on Sasuke, who was apparently having an argument with Sakura about something. I'll allow his participation for now, Anko, but Kakashi, you know what to do afterward. Kakashi nodded and then returned to the Junin's line, before Anko turned to the Genin. Okay everyone, shut the hell up and listen, as we'll now proceed with the explanation of the third exam from Lord Hokage, so listen carefully. Anko then turned to Hokage and saw his nod, before taking a step forward to address the Genin himself. Before explaining the rules of the third phase, I have just one thing to explain to you all. It's regarding the true purpose of these exams. Why do you all believe nations conduct the exams on a conjoint basis? Raising the levels of the shinobi amongst the nations, it won't do to have the wrong idea of the true meaning of that statement. The exams are, so to speak, a microcosm of battle between the nations. Back in history, every shinobi nation battled with each other for power. But in order to avoid a futile crushing of each other's military strength, the nations mutually selected a place to battle, and that's how the Chunin exams originally began. There were some murmurs amongst the genin, and Naruto took the time to briefly wonder about the time of the Nadaime Hokage. It's true that these exams serve first to select possible Chunin candidates, but these exams also provide a venue for shinobi who carry their nation's pride on their backs to fight for their lives. Many feudal lords and those of prominence from many nations who request shinobi for work are invited to this third exam as guests. They come here to watch the battles and see the village's military prowess displayed. The nations who manages to impress the feudal lords and clients will thus gain more revenue and exercise pressure on the other nations. As expected, this one was met with more complaints, as the genin now wondered why they were battling for their lives just to perform for the feudal lords and other visitors. Still, it made sense if one were to pay attention. The strength of the village is closely linked to the strength of its shinobi. It's a precarious system for sure. It's a delicate balance between nations, going as far as to measure one's military might by the number of missions this village is hired to perform. Now, with that out of the way, I shall now explain the third exam. The Hokage stopped talking as soon as a Junin morphed in front of Hiruzen wearing the standard uniform and a blue bandana on his head. Lord Hokage, please allow me, Hayate Gecko, to explain. Hiruzen nodded, before the man in question got up from kneeling and turned to the assembled genin. Before turning to explain, though, the man named Hayate started coughing. Okay then, everyone, I'd like you all to do something before the third exam, and that is a preliminary to the third exam. From the genin in attendance, it was Shikamaru who voiced his complaint. Oi! What is this about preliminaries? Shouldn't we just go straight to the third exam? Hayate released a sigh at having to explain himself more than necessary, which ended up forcing his throat and lung capacity down. Cough, cough. Whether the first phases were too easy or the quality of this year's genin has improved, the fact remains that there are too many applicants. Because of this, according to the exam's rules, preliminary matches are necessary to reduce the number of genin advancing. Those that suffered the most in the exams, and Shikamaru, were clearly against the idea, but Hayate ignored them. As Hokage-sama explained, many guests shall attend the third phase, so we can't have long and pointless matches. Not to mention that our time is limited as well. Therefore, those of you not in top physical condition are free to cough, cough. Hayate had to stop talking once the coughing became too much and made some genin worried about the Junin's health. Sorry about that. Well, those of you who wish to drop out, please speak up now. The preliminary matches will begin immediately. Oi! What the hell, we just spent 5 days in this forest, getting our asses kicked. Hiba truly looked like he had described it just now. It's your decision from here on out, so please raise your hands and drop out if you don't feel like continuing. To this, the genin started murmuring amongst each other, and Sasuke looked around, wondering who would quit now, when the pain on his shoulder erupted once more. His hand unconsciously reached towards the injury as the level of pain became too much to bear. Sakura, behind him, became worried about the Uchiha's chances to continue. Sakura knew how his pride would be diminished if she suggested for him to forfeit, but she was worried about his health. Sasuke-kun, You need to forfeit and get it checked out. To this, both Kiba and Sasuke looked at their teammate in incredulity. Kiba did understand Sakura's pained voice after what they had to face in the forest. Sasuke, though. Shut up, Sakura, stay away from this. Sakura, though, instead of being more worried about him, now became angry at such stubbornness. No, I won't stay away, you're our teammate. If you don't forfeit, then I'll inform them of your condition. Sasuke was baffled at her narrowed expression, and he could see that she was about to raise her hand. Sakura, be quiet. The pink-haired genin, though, wasn't fazed by Sasuke's angry visage and kept on raising her hand. Before she could fully raise, however, everyone was surprised when Kabuto beat her to the punch, with an unguarded smile. Excuse me, I'll quit. His revelation brought about question marks from everyone present, considering how Kabuto presented himself to them at the beginning. If this was his 7th exam, then it would seem that he was at least the most experienced genin from Konoha in these exams. Kiba, Sakura and Sasuke looked even more incredulous, considering how helpful was the silver-haired genin in the second phase. It was thanks to him that the team passed at all. The higher-ups, for their chance, looked at this with narrowed eyes, considering the genin's history, or at least his folder. Hayate, though, merely looked at the spreadsheet in his hands and accepted his withdrawal from the exams. As he walked away, however, Kabuto had simply adjusted his glasses with an evil smile on his face. Because of Kabuto's withdrawal, Sakura had simply forgotten about her desire to inform of Sasuke's illness. Okay then, since no one else will quit, we shall continue. The matches will happen in one-on-one. There are now exactly 20 people, so we will conduct 10 battles overall. The winners shall attend the 3rd exam. There are no rules for this combat, so you'll fight until someone dies, collapses, or admit defeat. In other words, please admit defeat right away if you don't have a death wish. I can interrupt the match at any time if I see a clear victor. Now, please everyone clear the area and move to the upper platforms as the fights shall begin. The names shall be randomly selected on the board up there. As instructed, everyone went up to the upper platforms, while the names appeared on the board. Preliminary fights . The first names on the board were Nara Shikamaru from the Leaf vs Kintsuchi from the Sound Village. The lazy genius released a sigh at his name being mentioned and casually walked down the stairs followed by his opponent, a woman from the looks of it, which further annoyed the Nara heir. The two combatants were then standing face to face with Hayate as the referee. When the match started, Shikamaru had immediately begun with his shadow binding technique. Kin saw the shadow beam charging at her and evaded. She then released a couple of senbon with bells attached. Shikamaru dodged the incoming projectile and observed as the senbon lodged at the wall behind him. A couple more senbon and this time Shikamaru blocked it with a kunai, before closing the distance. Before he went within close range, though, he heard the distinguished noises of the bells and turned to see it. Kin took the opportunity of the distraction and threw more senbon at the Nara. However, after facing Naruto so many times, despite Shikamaru's complaints, his agility had improved by leaps and bounds, allowing him ample time to dodge and use his shadow bind once more. Only this time, instead of the usual shadow beam, Kin was surprised when the shadow had split up in smaller tendrils as each charged in different directions. Kin cursed having to dodge from multiple directions and chose the only venue she could dodge. As soon as she placed her right foot to go backwards, Shikamaru smiled and joined his shadow to one single beam that captured the sound genin. Naruto and Hinata both smiled at the clever plan from the team's strategist. Shikamaru had forced Kin to make that move, and the moment that she dashed backwards, she had lost her footing for a few seconds. That was enough for Shikamaru to move for the checkmate. Naruto had almost fell victim for that strategy in one of their spars one time, by using a cage bunshin to be captured in this place. Kujmain no Jutsu, success. Shikamaru had even casually walked towards Kin and Kin moved against her will, shortening the distance. Shikamaru had a kunai on his hand and when they stood face to face, Shikamaru's kunai became inches from her neck, positioning himself for the win as per Hayate's decree. Next up was Inuzuka Kiba from the Leaf vs Sabaku no Konkuro from the Sand Village. As usual, Kiba underestimated the enemy and heavily paid the price. Konkuro's use of chakra strings was enough to trap Akamaru, and the Inuzuka heir lost his trump card right away. And since his fighting style revolved around fighting with his canine partner, and despite Kiba being a heavy close-range fighter, he lacked the necessary skill to take on Konkuro's puppets. Kakashi, up in the stands, couldn't help but sigh in dismay for his student, as Kiba had simply forgotten to take this fight seriously. Next up was Aburame Shino from the Leaf versus Zaku Abumi from the Sound Village, with the Aburame heir being the victor. The battles progressed with Sabaku no Tamari from the Sand winning against Tenten of the Leaf. Naruto keenly observed the use of wind jutsu aided by fans. Haruno Sakura from the Leaf had defeated Yamanaka Ino also from the Leaf quite easily, expertly mixing taijutsu, shuriken jutsu and genjutsu, much to Naruto's applause. He had even openly praised Sakura for her skills, to which she accepted, basking in the praise from her senpai. Sakura had trained a lot under Naruto's guidance, and she dedicated her win to him, even more than Kakashi-sensei. Akamichi Choji was up against another genin from the Sound, named Kinyuta Dosu. The match was rather pathetic, though, with Choji using his clan's technique to expand his body and rolling towards Dosu. Dosu, though, had simply sidestepped, forcing Choji to hit the wall pretty hard and lose consciousness. Naruto and Asuma had to sweat drop at Kurenai heavily rubbing her forehead at the display. The genjutsu user was already frowning at Ino's poor showing against Sakura, but she couldn't help but wonder if she should have focused more on Choji's training. At least Shino had managed to advance. When the next names appeared, though, Hinata gasped and Naruto was by her side immediately, giving her courage. The reserved main branch Hyuga couldn't help but look at her cousin, who was simply crossing his arms, while focusing on the board. The two Hyuga then walked together downstairs, before standing face to face. Their facial expressions varied. Neji looked angry at her and she looked saddened by it. Neji-Nisan, I never thought I would have to fight you, Hinata-sama. Hinata had evolved a great deal from the timid girl she used to be, but she couldn't help but revert to that state upon hearing the anger at how he had addressed her. Still, now was not the time to dwell on these problems. Hinata wished she could have faced another adversary, but Neji was her opponent. I didn't want to face you as well, Neji-Nisan, but I guess fate has chosen for us. If Hinata had one word that Neji had absolutely loathed above all else, it was that, fate. Yes, indeed fate has placed us to face each other, Hinata-sama. And fate has smiled at me with the opportunity to face you without the clan doing anything against me. Hinata stood there facing her cousin. She knew what he was talking about, of course. She had seen it happening one time too many to understand the depth of his anger towards her. Well, towards her would be wrong, rather towards the main branch family. But right now, Hinata may very well be the face of the main branch in his eyes. Aside from truly wishing to become stronger, she wished to rid her cousin of this hatred. Naruto and Kurenai eyed each other from the upper grounds, knowing the mountain that Hinata now had to climb on her own, before both turned back to the fight. Neji-Nisan, I don't believe words will change what happened in the past. All I can do right now is face you head on. Neji, for his part, smiled as both fell into the traditional fighting position. I would be remiss if I didn't say one more thing beforehand, withdraw Hinata-sama. Although, by the look in his eyes, he didn't want her to, he wanted her to fight and she knew that. Naruto knew bits and pieces about what happened to Hinata's cousin from Hinata. How Neji's father ended up taking Hiyashi-sama's place to serve as sacrifice to stop a war against Kumo, even though it was Kumo who decided to kidnap Hinata that day. He knew about the Hyuga clan's seal on Neji's forehead that is used by the main branch to force loyalty, and that Hiyashi had already used it on Neji once. Because of what he knew, he could feel Neji's chakra spiking to dangerous levels and without a doubt was aimed at Hinata. Neji's killing intent was clear towards Hinata. He knew that his teammate wouldn't back down, though. And while a part of him truly believed that it would be best for her to withdraw, this was also her opportunity to truly gauge her own growth, as he knew she can do this. I won't, Neji-Nisan, so don't bother. Hinata stated resolutely, accepting his anger. As soon as Hayate authorized the fight, both Byakugan activated at the same time as they exchanged chakra thrusts with each other, going toe-to-toe. Neji had more experience, but Hinata had trained extensively with Naruto. Plus, She learned from her teammate how to avoid the powerful chakra thrusts that could block the chakra points. Her eyes were focused on Neji's hands while using both her own diverting style and Naruto's evasion technique. Still, she could feel some of Neji's blows land even if barely. Overloading her chakra circuits hurt like hell, but it helped overcome Neji's blows. What surprised the older Hyuga was that Hinata landed some hits as well. And it irritated him to no end. Her footing and movement had both grace and agility, the likes of which Neji had never seen before. Soon it became a dangerous dance of strength versus grace. And while Hinata managed to face her cousin, Naruto was on her mind the entire time. She remembered their fights together just as she was battling against Neji now. She could see his deep cerulean eyes and confident smile directed at her from the upper platforms. "Please watch me, Naruto-kun." When Hinata tried to attack Neji, though, she had made the fatal mistake. Her style revolves around counter-attacking. When Neji landed a powerful chakra thrust at her chest, Hinata felt it right away as she spilled blood. Still, Neji was surprised when her counterattack landed an equally powerful strike on his stomach. Naruto squeezed both hands on the rail as he looked in anticipation for the injuries she sustained. A hit like that from the Juken was quite deadly. Back to the fight, both Hyuga were on the ground panting from the pain, though Hinata's was worse. She desperately wanted to get up and fight, but the blood kept on dripping from her mouth and she could feel her stamina leaving her body. She felt weak, but as she looked up to Neji, she realized that she had done that to him. She, the timid girl, the one to whom the clan looked down upon, the girl whose own father looked down and said that she would never amount to much. She, Hyuga Hinata, had sent the clan's prodigy to the ground, panting. And based on the look in Neji's eyes, he was just as surprised as she was. Best of all, was that Hinata had seen something else in his eyes, recognition, acknowledgement, finally looking at her like a worthy adversary. Then she looked up and saw him. She saw him smiling at her. That was enough for her. She has proven to both him and herself that she was capable. And truly they was enough. Both Naruto and Kurenai had Shunshin down next to her, just as Hayate called the match in Neji's favor. The medics were approaching and Hinata opened her eyes to look at the two most special people in her life. "Kurenai-sensei. Naruto-kun, how was I?" The blonde smiled and grabbed her hand. "You were excellent, Hinata. I knew you could do it. You showed him. You were indeed Hinata-chan, now please rest." The girl smiled sweetly at both and gently closed her eyes, feeling lighter than ever, filled with enough confidence that she could take on every possible challenge from here on out. The medics took both Neji and Hinata away, as Naruto and Kurenai returned to the stands, none of them bothering to look at the others' surprised looks, namely Anko, Kakashi, Shikamaru and Asuma. Their surprise was more regarding the fact that Kurenai and Naruto practically moved at the same time in clear concern for Hinata, and that spoke volumes. Asuma, though, couldn't help but smile at this. He knew that Kurenai cared for Hinata like her own daughter and Naruto had greatly helped her grow out of her shell. The board then sprang into action once more and it stopped on two quite interesting names. When Naruto's name appeared next to Sasuke, the blonde genin couldn't help but sigh in dismay. He didn't even need to see Sasuke to know that he was looking forward to this fight. He saw Sasuke coming down the stairs and was about to follow him when Sakura stopped him. "Sakura, what's up?" "Naruto-senpai, there is something wrong with Sasuke-kun." Sakura just couldn't talk about what happened from fear of Sasuke losing confidence in her, but she could at least ask her senpai to better handle Sasuke with care. "What happened, Sakura?" He could see that she was tense when speaking. "Sorry, but explaining everything would take too long, but is it about that strange seal on his neck?" Sakura looked surprised at that while Naruto turned to look at his opponent down below waiting for him. "I can sense that his chakra is in disarray, though I don't know why. I can't promise that I won't take this seriously, though. Just like him, I want to advance." Sakura nodded. "Anyhow. I understand, just don't go overboard on him, okay?" "Huh, I make no promises," Naruto stated with a wink, and Sakura couldn't help but smile, before Naruto using Shunshin to stand right in front of the smirking Sasuke. Naruto stood face to face with Sasuke and he could see that Sasuke was itching for another fight with him. In the beginning of their training sessions, Naruto had enjoyed them, but then with time, Sasuke started demanding more and more time to fight him, every time. In some of those demands, Naruto caved, but in other times he had other priorities like joining his team for training or helping Sakura or even hanging out with Kurenai and Yakumo for genjutsu practice. Naruto had even distanced himself from the Uchiha when he wanted to train some of the hidden skills he had yet to reveal to the public. You have been blowing me off for a while, Naruto. But now you can't avoid fighting me. Naruto sighed as he felt the sudden spike in Sasuke's chakra followed by the Uchiha's flinching in pain. It would be best if you withdraw, Sasuke. I can see that you're in pain. If it's a fight you want, then we can do it once you recovered. He owed Sakura to at least try, though he was certain that Uchiha wouldn't back down. Worry about yourself, let's do this. And yet you still wonder why I avoid facing you sometimes, when you're like this, acting like everyone needs to do your bidding. I can see though that mere words will not suffice. Despite the obvious jab, the Uchiha was unconcerned. What mattered the most to him was to have fights like this and surpass him. By surpassing him, Sasuke could see himself surpassing his brother in the future. The rest of the audience looked at this fight right now in great anticipation. Despite some of the Junin knowing about Sasuke's current disadvantage, he was still an Uchiha and could give Naruto trouble. The Hokage puffed smoke from his pipe and looked straight at Naruto, since this happens to be the first time he has seen the kid in action. The other Junin were also eager to see who would prevail. Naruto had quickly unleashed his ninjutsu and fell into position with a reverse grip. Sasuke used a kunai on his hand and both vanished as soon as Hayate authorized the fight. The genin widened their eyes at the sheer speed displayed by these two, before they met in the middle grinding weapons. Sasuke snarled at the strength required to normally parry Naruto added by the pain of the seal. Naruto appeared to be tranquil as he observed Sasuke, or rather his onyx eyes. Aren't you using your Sharingan, Sasuke? Without it, you won't last long. Sasuke quickly redirected Naruto's sword and attempted a flip kick, to which Naruto easily sidestepped and closed in on Sasuke, making a feint slash on Sasuke's torso. The Uchiha used agility to evade, but his shirt was slightly torn, before he took some distance away from the blonde. Naruto's sensor capabilities could feel Sasuke's chakra flow battling as if there was a presence inside of him, trying to take over. Sasuke charged at Naruto and he saw it too late when Naruto's free hand shifted into a half-ram seal. From up the platforms, Kurenai smirked as Naruto began. Sasuke had attacked the Naruto that he saw in front of him, but the real Naruto was a couple of centimeters to the right of his actual position, easily sidestepping Sasuke's attack and grazing the Uchiha's arm with his sword. The Uchiha grunted in pain and charged once more, with the same thing happening, only this time it was the other arm. There was no way that Naruto could be this fast. It was like he was disappearing for a single second and appearing right next to him. Asuma and Shikamaru looked on in surprise at this, and the bearded Junin turned to the smirking Kurenai. He is using genjutsu. The woman looked at him briefly and nodded, still with a proud smile. It's a style he devised in our genjutsu training. Sasuke could have seen it with the Sharingan, but since he is not using it, he is clueless about what is going on, mistaking it for Naruto's agility instead. Asuma and Shikamaru then looked back at the fight to see Sasuke's shirt completely torn from Naruto's sword. How the hell are you doing this? The Uchiha had enough speed to rival most adversaries, but he just couldn't follow Naruto's attacks. Use your Sharingan, Sasuke. Or else you'll be finished quite quickly. Truly, I expected better from you. If Naruto wanted to push his buttons, he had truly succeeded. Up from the stands, the Junin from Sound, Orochimaru in disguise, was focusing on this Uzumaki Naruto attentively. True, that Sasuke couldn't use the Sharingan because of the seal, but facing an Uchiha in close combat even without the dojutsu was surprising. Plus, Orochimaru saw a genius mix of genjutsu and kenjutsu, the likes of which ninja nowadays don't favor much. For this fact alone, Naruto spiked Orochimaru's interest. Back to Sasuke, he figured that keeping like this was not to his advantage. He was bleeding in multiple places and he was clueless. Naruto was barely winded and Sasuke was panting. He couldn't keep up like this. Kakashi narrowed his eyebrows the minute that Sasuke activated his Sharingan. Naruto had pushed him into doing this. Sasuke ignored the sudden pain as he eyed Naruto now with his Tsutomu Sharingan. This time, Naruto stopped his previous strategy and faced Sasuke head-on using his own speed. The fight became even as despite Sasuke anticipating Naruto's movements, his body just wasn't trained to follow. Up from the stands, Guy and Lee looked in approval at the blonde for his agility. Lee was faster than this, but still it was quite impressive to see a genin from the first year this fast. Sasuke smirked despite the pain, managing to even the playing field, but still he was nowhere near turning the tides of the battle. Despite not receiving any more injuries, he was now merely parrying Naruto's strikes. The blonde, then, surprised him with a distance and went through hand seals. Sasuke believed it would be one of the ninjutsu Naruto knew, but he was surprised to see Naruto vanishing and Itachi dressed in an Anbu uniform looking at Sasuke with his 3-tomo Sharingan. Magen Narakumi no Jutsu, demonic illusion, hell viewing technique. Sasuke saw red at this point. Despite his Sharingan telling the truth, Naruto's technique sprung up the seal from Orochimaru. Itachi. And with Sasuke's lack of willpower to hold the seal's influence at bay, Naruto was surprised when the seal spread from Sasuke's neck and advanced towards his entire body. Such a use of Fuinjutsu, he wasn't even aware of. His Genjutsu was released immediately and Naruto parried Sasuke's kunai and he could feel the strength of Sasuke now doubled as well as his speed. Up from the stands, Anko was visibly arguing with the Hokage to stop this fight immediately, but the Hokage had not given the order thus far. Kakashi could see that the Hokage was interested in what Naruto would do next. Kurenai and Asuma were worried as well, as they could feel the malevolent energy from Sasuke just now. Naruto, for his chance, realized that right now facing a deranged Sasuke meant that he needed to add chakra into his limbs for added agility. As soon as he did so, aided by the half-ram sign, those in attendance's eyes widened at the sudden spike, before Naruto became a mere blur. Hiruzen became surprised on a positive note and right now only the Junin managed to follow Naruto's movements. Sasuke snarled at the sudden agility and attempted a fire ninjutsu to stop his advance. His Sharingan could see where Naruto is going, but by the time he acts on it, the blonde is already gone and charging towards Sasuke. The Uchiha became surprised when Naruto appeared right in front of him and landed a fierce kick on Sasuke's chest, sending him flying towards the wall. The Uchiha slammed his back hard and coughed even more blood. His anger, though, was off the charts and wiped the blood from his mouth, before charging madly. Sakura, by this point, trembled remembering Sasuke like this in the Forest of Death. Kakashi-sensei, we need to stop this. Sasuke is, Sakura, though, was surprised when Kakashi made a HMPH in acknowledgement for what Naruto was planning. The Scarecrow Junin already knew that Naruto had way more skills than he had shown thus far, but this truly shocked him beyond any doubt. And to believe that so far he had yet to use any elemental ninjutsu. Don't worry Sakura, Naruto can handle him. Trust your senpai. Sakura then looked as Naruto dashed backwards while Sasuke charged. Their movement then became only visible to Junin and above. As soon as Naruto placed a hand on the ground, they saw it. Hiruzen's smirk was quite visible, Orochimaru couldn't help but lick his lips in anticipation. Kakashi, Kurenai, Asuma and Anko displayed surprising looks on their faces. Kurenai may have seen some astounding stuff from this blonde enigma, but not nearly this advanced and so soon. When Sasuke stepped on the place that Naruto placed his hand just seconds after, his body had frozen instantly as black lines spread all over his body as well, crawling up his chest. Try as he might, Sasuke couldn't rid himself as Naruto unleashed his ninjutsu with a superior smirk on his face. Well, attempting this against Kage Bunshin's only goes so far, but I managed to time your footing and apply the binding seal on the ground. Sasuke snarled and attempted to break free, but he saw Naruto's ninjutsu placed inches from Sasuke's jugular, before Hayate called the match in Naruto's favor. Having secured the victory, Naruto then released the seal on Sasuke's body, though obviously Sasuke's enraged state cared very little about Hayate's word. As he was about to advance against Naruto once more, Kakashi appeared behind him and slammed the back of Sasuke's neck, sending the Uchiha into the sweet land of unconsciousness. Kakashi had only saluted Naruto with a smile, before vanishing with Sasuke towards somewhere else. Naruto, for his chance, merely walked back towards the upper platforms, before joining close to Shikamaru and Asuma, none the wiser that his display had attracted the eyes of the rest of the genin still in attendance. Beforehand, no one bothered to look at him, but now everyone focused on him, namely one with a sand gourd on his back. I hope you understand how troublesome you are right now, Naruto. The blonde genin laughed at Shikamaru's eyebrow tick. Well, I didn't wish for Sasuke to steal my ninjutsu with his Sharingan, so I shifted strategies. Asuma and Kurenai were amused at the Nara's antics. Huh, why do I get the feeling that you have yet to show half of everything you can do? You do irk me, you know that. Naruto could only laugh at the faux accusation. If only he knew, if only they knew. You think too much of me, Shika. Asuma chuckled as he knew Shikamaru's brain was functioning like crazy to try and gather the missing pieces of this puzzle. Good showing out there, Naruto. I guess I shouldn't be surprised anymore to see a different skill from you. I'm eager to see what will be revealed next. Naruto looked towards the smirking Junin next to Kurenai. Who knows, perhaps a ninjutsu or two. Kurenai frowned and Naruto corrected himself with a sweat drop. Of course, in between other skills, right. Only when she smiled at him did he realize that he was played. Relax, Naruto-kun, I was just messing with you. It was a good display out there. The last two battles progressed as well, with two of Kabuto's teammates facing each other until both admitted the lack of chakra and abandoned their match. The last match involved Sabaku no Gaara from the sand and Rock Lee from the leaf. Though Lee was a taijutsu beast, going as far as to use a technique that involved the opening of chakra gates to increase his strength and speed, Gaara's prowess with his sand proved to be fatal, going as far as to crush some of Lee's bones, much to his team's shock. The medic nins had taken him away and Guy followed suit. Naruto's eyes were firm on Gaara as the Suna genin simply walked back towards the upper platform as if nothing happened. With the last match done and done, Hayate announced the end of the preliminaries. As such, those who won stood in front of the Hokage as well as the proctors Ibiki and Anko. Okay, now that the preliminaries are finished, I'd like to let you take your leave, but not before explaining about the third round, which will commence in about a month's time from now. First, though, each and every one of you will take a slip of paper from the box that Anko is holding. The Tokubetsu Junin then walked forward to each one of the genin and made a guy acting in Neji's stead as they grabbed one piece of paper each. Ibiki stood next to the Hokage with a chart in his hand and ordered everyone to tell the number that was on each of the papers. Naruto, 1. Shikamaru, 3. Temari, 4. Sakura, 7. Neji, 2. Kankuro, 6. Gaara, 9. Dosu, 8. Shino, 5. Ibiki, show them the pairings. The head of the interrogation department then flipped the chart and showed the genin whom they would be facing in 1 month's time. Naruto looked at his name next to Neji's and already began to think of his strategy. The chart shown as follows. First match, Naruto x Neji. Second match, Shikamaru x Temari. Third match, Shino x Kankuro. Fourth match, Sakura x Dosu. Fifth match, winner of the first match x winner of the second match. Sixth match, winner of the third match x winner of the fourth match. Seventh match, winner of the fifth match x winner of the sixth match. Eighth match, winner of the seventh match x Gaara. Gaara went straight to the final fight against the best of the 8 combatants. As you can see, the third round will be a tournament. As to why it will happen in 1 month's time, as of right now, we are sending invitations to many of feudal lords and high dignitaries to come. The organization will take time. Plus, since you now know your opponent, you will have 1 month's time to train and come up with a strategy against your opponents. Quote, I do have one question. Shikamaru raised his hand and the Hokage allowed it. It looks like there is only one victor in this tournament. Does that mean that only the victor will be promoted to Chunin? No, on the contrary. The judges of the final round, of which I am one of them, will analyze your skills, your strategy, your decision-making and judge whether or not you'd be worthy of the promotion. Unfortunately, Gaara-kun here will only have one opportunity to display, whereas the rest will have more, of course, if you are able to beat your opponent, that is. Even if someone loses the first round, you can still be eligible for the promotion. Gaara just stood there with his arms crossed, not saying anything, and the Hokage just chuckled, finishing it. Now, we shall meet again in 1 month's time. Dismissed. After the tournament explanation and seeing who would be facing whom, the genin had gathered around with their respective Junin sensei, well at least those from Konoha did. Sakura looked around and found that her entire team had left her alone there. Well, Kakashi had taken Sasuke away for something and Kiba was taken by the medic Nin after his loss to Kankuro. She turned to look for Naruto and saw him talking to his teammates. Seeing him chatting amicably with Shikamaru and Asuma sensei brought about a smile on her face. The pink-haired genin truly looked up to him, she reasoned. Ever since the Wave mission, he had helped her in many ways, and she credited her win today to his guidance. His fight against Sasuke only proved how far ahead he was. It was like he was toying with Sasuke the entire time. Hell, Naruto had even won with Sasuke using the damn cursed seal of his. Still, instead of depressing her, it only served to inspire her into reaching bigger heights in her career. And her opponent was that genin from Sound, Kinyuta Dosu. She needed to devise a strategy against him and she needed to talk to Kakashi sensei. She turned just as the Scarecrow Junin manifested behind her with a grin and a greeting. Kakashi sensei, you're back. What about Sasuke-kun? Kakashi released a sigh knowing that Sakura would question that. Truth be told, Kakashi wasn't counting on meeting with the snake Orochimaru when he was performing the sealing around Sasuke's cursed seal. It was actually the second time they met and the same thing happened. Him freezing on the spot and Orochimaru simply walking past him as if nothing happened. Whether that was due to Orochimaru's strong Kaneshibari no Jutsu, temporary paralysis technique, or Kakashi being too weak to break free from the Sannin stare was irrelevant. The only truth that remained was that should the snake desired, Kakashi would be killed in less than a second. Truth be told, Sakura, it's up to Sasuke now. I've done all I can, but only he can fight against Orochimaru's seal. Sakura looked downtrodden, but Kakashi simply placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. Now, we can't worry about him for now. As I heard, you'll be facing the genin from Sound, Dosu. So, we shall focus on your training for this month and we'll come up with a suitable strategy against him. Is there something you wish to improve or learn throughout this month? As I recall, your opponent seems to be rather fond of that metal arm of his that emits sound waves. Also, we will need to focus on your possible opponents afterward, either Shino or Kankuro from the sand. Sakura was eyeing her sensei in awe as she didn't even look that far ahead. Wow sensei, slow down there. Kakashi chuckled at Sakura's groan. No time for that, my cute little genin. We shall get you ready for the third part. And what about Sasuke-kun and Kiba, are you ditching them? Kakashi couldn't be prouder of her for this. If he were to offer this to Sasuke and Kiba, chances were that neither of them would bother thinking of his teammates. They can join us if they want to. Sasuke is advancing fine with his Sharingan already and Kiba has his family to train him. This month is about you, Sakura. I will warn you though, I shall up your training severely. Well then, bring it on sensei. Meanwhile, Asuma was having his own chat with Naruto and Shikamaru. After Naruto asked about Hinata, to which the bearded shinobi explained that she was duly taken care of and then taken to her family's house to rest, Asuma talked about his genin's plans for the training month. So, now we have reached a kind of impasse. 2 of my genin have progressed to the 3rd round and there is only 1 of me here. Plus, there is the possibility of you 2 facing each other, so training together wouldn't be ideal. Naruto and Shikamaru eyed each other, then turned back to their sensei. Sensei, not to sound like Shika needs your help the most, but I believe it's better for me to train on my own for this month. True that Naruto's words ended up helping the impasse, but Asuma was slightly hurt that his genin was already this dismissive of his help. Not that Asuma really took credit for almost everything that Naruto displayed so far. The truth was that Asuma only taught him how to fine-tune his wind techniques. Well, Shika has his family to help him, Naruto. You'll be facing Neji first, so we could devise a strategy together. Shikamaru had simply placed his hands behind his head in deep contemplation. Chu-san has been rather busy these last few weeks with Hokage-sama for something, so I don't think he will have much time for me, sensei. Asuma knew that to be true, considering Nara Shikaku's role in advising the Hokage. And Naruto had the perfect argument to help assuage Asuma into leaving him alone for what he was thinking of for this month. Asuma-sensei. Since Shika will face Tamari first, he needs to train against her wind techniques. You'd be perfect to help him with that. Asuma though scratched his head as he observed his genin. If I didn't know any better, I'd say you don't want my help, Naruto. Well, that could be true in a way, saying it like that would be wrong. It's not that, I just figured that you would be torn, trying to help us both. Perhaps you can focus on Shika for the 3 weeks and then we can meet for the last week, then, how's that sound? Besides, I bet that Shika will take that week to sleep anyway. Shikamaru deadpanned at his teammate for criticizing one of his favorite hobbies. You say it like it's a bad thing. Asuma laughed and conceded to Naruto's plan. Okay Naruto, we shall meet again in 3 weeks then. But if you wish to talk to me before, you know where to find me. Naruto nodded, before seeing Asuma and Shikamaru leaving the forest together. He then saw that Shino and Kurenai had finished their conversation as the Aburame heir had left as well. Kakashi and Sakura had left also and Kurenai was now talking to Anko. As soon as he approached the two, Anko turned to him. Hi there Gaki, that was a good fight. You mopped the floor with that Uchiha. Felt really good to see, I'll admit. Naruto and Kurenai chuckled at Anko's enthusiasm. Thank you. Truth be told, it would have been a lot tougher if he was in full strength. Anko snorted at Naruto downplaying his own victory. It was surprising to Kurenai that Naruto was still down to earth despite his display just now. That's the Chunin exams for you, tough luck, these situations happen. Well, not meeting that snake fuck and getting a hickey, but out there on missions, you won't get the chance to face a fight, fully rested. Naruto accepted it and then turned to Kurenai. I take it you will be focusing on Shino, right Kurenai-sensei? She nodded with her arms crossed. Yes, though I bet that Shino will also favor some tutoring from his clan as well. Why do you ask? Isn't Asuma helping you? Oh, just curious. Asuma-sensei will be training me for the last week. I actually wanted to train on my own for a while. He has to focus on Shikamaru as well. Kurenai smirked at him knowingly, already guessing he would prefer it this way, though she couldn't help but want to tease him some. Another of your side projects, I see, and here I thought you'd come here and ask for my help. Naruto smiled at his second sensei's faux disappointed face. Anko looked at her friend with a lifted eyebrow, surprised to see her at ease with him. Nothing like that, I don't plan on learning anything new, just improve on the skills I already know. Come to think about it, do you happen to know anyone willing to give me some pointers in Kenjutsu? Anko and Kurenai looked surprised as he elaborated. Against the Byakugan, Genjutsu is pointless, so if I am to face him at close range, I would need to use Kenjutsu from close range and Ninjutsu from long range. Seeing that Naruto is constantly training with Hinata, it was no surprise that he didn't take long to devise a strategy. I may have someone willing to help you, but she is quite busy this time around. I'll ask her. Anko smirked, knowing whom Kurenai was talking about. Excellent, now I guess it's high time for some celebratory ramen. See ya Anko-san, Kurenai-sensei. The two women looked at his back, leaving the tower, before Kurenai noticed Anko looking at her with a knowing smirk. What? Anko couldn't help but grin. Her friend looked quite cozy when the blonde Gaki was nearby, but for now, the snake charmer Junin opted to wait and see, but it was quite entertaining to see where this is heading. Oh nothing. Think that she will accept helping him? Kurenai shrugged it off. I bet she will. Not many favors swords these days, it's a blessing to see a young man favoring different branches of the shinobi arts. Anko nodded in acceptance. Well, how about some sake and dango, my place? You can call her to join our little pajama party. Sure, let's get out of this place. I still don't know why you like coming here so much. Anko smirked as she followed Kurenai out of the tower. It was already night time outside as the training ground's usual inhabitants appeared before them. Snakes, spiders, tigers, bears, and vicious plants, amongst others. What's not to like Kurenai-chan? This is paradise. Kurenai chuckled as both left via Shunshin. Chapter 15 Meeting with the Devil. It was already late at night as Hiruzen Sarutobi had finalized the amount of paperwork for the day. The preparations for the Chunin exam's last phase was well underway with all the invitations already sent and all the dignitaries' attendance confirmation. Of course, some nobles had their own security detail, so the village had to account for them as well. The list of updated visitors were then set for screening by the Anbu personnel together with the Jonin commander. With that out of the way, Hiruzen only had to accommodate the shinobi visitors from other villages. In this case, so far, only the Kazekage had confirmed their presence. Other shinobi leaders were invited as well, but since there were no genin from other villages, it was rather obvious that neither Kiri, Kumo or Iwa would come. It would be rather surprising and suspicious, otherwise. Lighting up his pipe, the Sandaime Hokage now took his sweet time relaxing in the dark confines of his office, taking advantage of the full moon outside. Normally, the entire building would be lit up, but sometimes the old war veteran Hokage preferred it this way. Well, with lights on, people would invite themselves in, and it's rather late to indulge someone tonight. Of course, the old man wouldn't be called the professor if his senses were dulled, just because he was inside his own office, surrounded by his personal Anbu detail. Hence why he couldn't help but chuckle while puffing on his pipe. To believe that not one but two of my students would suddenly find the urge to revisit their own home. A couple of the Anbu hidden in the shadows looked at one another, wondering what was going on, before a chuckle alerted them. I don't know what you're talking about, old man, all I'm interested in is keeping my research updated for my books. The Hokage just smiled in acknowledgement, before looking at the sudden appearance by his office window. A man with long white hair tied in a ponytail, wearing a short green shirt kimono and matching pants, under which he wore mesh armor that is visible at his wrists and ankles. He also wore hand guards, a black belt, traditional Japanese wooden sandals and a red haori with 2 yellow circles on each side. A giant scroll strapped on his back completed the appearance of the Sannin Jiraiya. His sudden and subtle appearance inside one of the most guarded places of Konoha made everyone on edge, but the Anbu detail relaxed once they knew who this person was. I see, well, I'm glad you warned me beforehand. At the very least, I will know to expect the increase in the list of complaints from the female population. His student chuckled and crossed his arms. I wonder why you bothered having your shinobi to search for me, sensei. The old man Hokage puffed more of his pipe, before getting off his chair and approaching the window of his office. The reason for that is quite clear, Jiraiya, as I'm sure you are aware. Jiraiya chuckled and placed his hands on his waist. As of right now, it's unclear what Orochimaru intends on doing. The village is hosting the Chunin exams and can't really afford to be on the lookout for an S-ranked criminal lurking within our streets. Which is why I wish for you to stay put for now. The spy network could be set aside for this short while. The white-haired Sannin grunted at the order, perhaps the first order in quite a while, but he acquiesced in the end. Huh, understood. I guess I can take the time and check on Konoha's onsens to pass the time. Hiruzen chuckled at that. I'd guess it's quite a troublesome task for you, huh? Both senior shinobi laughed at that, until Jiraiya decided to change the subject. How is he doing? Hiruzen smirked at that. He was actually wishing that Jiraiya had not taken this long to broach the subject. Oh, deciding to check up on him, out of the blue, as to why the sudden interest, I wonder. Jiraiya frowned at the sudden jab, but didn't comment, as Hiruzen continued. He is doing quite well, it seems. Young Naruto-kun has displayed such an amazing set of skills these last few months. The Jonin sensei are actually fighting between themselves to become a part of his education. It was quite surprising to me too. If he continues on this path, I wouldn't be surprised if he received the Chunin promotion on his first try. Jiraiya whistled in recognition at the old man's praise for the kid. Well, he has good genes, after all. I do wonder if it's time to introduce myself to him and see for myself this progress. Perhaps, teach him a thing or two. The old man Hokage frowned, looking at his student with accusatory eyes. It's never too late to take responsibility, Jiraiya. Don't go there, sensei. The surly response wasn't surprising. The Sannin Jiraiya was known for his philandering ways and a goof in many ways. But the Hokage knew his student had more depth than that. While it couldn't be said that it was merely a front, it ended up escalating after the death of the Yondaime Hokage. Hiruzen knew his student's pain, he knew it too well. In the past, he would have pushed further. But, he had learned to restrain his mouth regarding his student's traumas, all of them. To this day, all three of them were still dealing with it. I won't. Now, Allow this old man to go home for the night, Jiraiya. If you do try to peek at women, do be subtle about it, you know, as a favor to me. I can't promise that. The Hokage just laughed at Jiraiya's now more upbeat response, knowing that Jiraiya could sneak up anywhere in the elemental nations without most shinobi catching up. It just so happens that the perverted Sannin enjoyed being caught, especially by gorgeous women. With Naruto . A week has passed since the end of the second phase of the Chunin exams, and Naruto had opted to take camp inside the cave where he first met his mentor. He had heard from Kurenai that she had managed to find a kenjutsu specialist for him, but this so-called specialist would only be able to tutor him, in a couple of weeks and for a limited amount of time, which suited Naruto just fine. To receive tutorship by an Anbu was exciting enough for him. Also, he had his own set of goals to finalize by that time, namely a new Suiden technique and further improve the level of his Suiden control. Reaching the Nadime's level would take him perhaps many years, despite Naruto's constant use of Kage Bunshin to shorten the time needed. What Naruto needed right now were techniques that he could use with the water inside his body. Neji is a fast, close-ranged fighter and won't allow Naruto to use wider-scale ninjutsu. As such, going for quick and precise attacks is preferable. The Suiden no Jutsu, water release, water bullet technique, not only is easy to perform, but it's a highly versatile technique to use from middle range. He had other strategies, but against the Byakugan, those were rather limited. Against Sasuke, Naruto took the opportunity that he wasn't using his Sharingan when the fight began, but Neji won't have that handicap. Genjutsu and even Fuinjutsu would be useless for him. The Nadime's scroll had a very nasty genjutsu for Naruto to learn, but it required almost perfect chakra control, not to mention ample time to practice. Locking the enemy inside a perpetual darkness would aid him against Neji, but he wouldn't be able to learn it in 1 month's time. Regarding Fuinjutsu, Naruto didn't think he would be able to hide it from the Byakugan. He could have tried asking for Hinata's help in this, but his teammate was still recovering from her own fight against Neji. With this, he had already devised a general strategy to use against Neji, but Naruto was somewhat clueless about what Neji could use against him. Hinata had already used some of the Hyuga techniques against him, but Neji was more advanced and considered a genius among the clan. So, not only offensive but defense maneuvers needed to be taken care of. Right now, Naruto was taking a seat in the middle of the lake inside the cave, while extending his chakra throughout the water. Despite doing this exercise for a long time now, every time he closed his eyes, Naruto felt himself practically becoming one with the element. And every time he reached this state it felt like he was being observed by the Nadime Hokage. The image would be forever engraved in his mind. The stern visage, the constant frown on both his mouth and eyebrows, with his arms crossed and the familiar and nostalgic throat sound that showed his displeasure at one of Naruto's mistakes. Not to mention the constant water whip that was ready to be used the second Naruto made a mistake, and boy were they many, especially in the beginning. Naruto stopped his exercise as soon as he stopped feeling his legs and he heard his stomach growling. Okay, guess it's time for some lunch. Opening his eyes and standing up, he turned to see 10 clones fighting each other in pairs, while sticking to the slippery cave walls. He had one pair fighting using taijutsu, others with kunai and 2 pairs with kenjutsu. However, much to his lament, some of the clones started using ninjutsu as well. Sometimes, his clones tended to have a mind of their own and decided not to play by the rules. So, before they could destroy this sacred place, Naruto ended up releasing all of them. Sorting the gathered memory and experience from the clones, Naruto then walked outside the cave, before covering his eyes at the strong sun that suddenly reached him. There was a nice little stream of water nearby where Naruto could find some fish for lunch. However, the blonde was surprised when he heard 4 different sets of voices nearby. 3 of them were easily enough to spot as he saw what appeared to be 3 women bathing together while throwing water at each other. The 4th sound was better described as giggling, and it was coming from a small forest close to the water stream where Naruto would fish and where the women were bathing. The genin became curious and walked closer to the sound, until he found what appeared to be an old man crouched behind some bushes, using a monocular. From the direction the old geezer was looking, it was clear that he was ogling at the 3 women. Oi Ojiazan, what are you doing? The long white-haired man, though, didn't stop giggling and mumbling some incoherent words, probably about the three women bathing. Oi! I'm talking to you. This time, Naruto poked this strange man on his right shoulder, and he received a dismissive wave in return. Scram it, kid, can't you see that I'm busy? A small tick appeared on Naruto's forehead, but he reined in his temper. His stomach was complaining too much and Naruto sometimes got cranky when he was hungry. Still, he had decided to ignore the perverted old man, before going back to the water stream and walking on top of the water, ignoring the women staring at him in awe at the display. In no time, Naruto got 5 fishes for himself and then gathered some wood for the fire. While waiting for his lunch to cook, Naruto took a seat close to the fire, while taking some time off from his training. It was nice sometimes to allow his body to cool off for a while after a gruesome training session. So, once the smell of cooked fish hit his nostrils, Naruto grabbed the first one and started eating. By the third fish, Naruto saw the same old man from before standing next to him. That's some nice fish you got there, Gaki, mind sharing one? Naruto was still chewing on this third fish as he looked at the stranger. By looks alone, Naruto was clueless about who this old man was. He had a headband all right, meaning he was a shinobi, but he didn't recognize a hidden village with the oil symbol. Also, based on his sensor skills, it was quite obvious that this man was high Jonin level. Dare Naruto say that this guy was on par with the Sandame, which was quite frightening. Though, the genin at least attempted to hide his surprise. I thought you were busy ogling at those women, but sure, help yourself. Jiraiya simply smirked and took a seat next to Naruto, before picking up one of the fish still being cooked. I was indeed checking them for my research. Naruto took the last fish and finished it quickly before this strange old man grabbed the last one, while ruminating about the next part of his own training, not much inclined into keeping a conversation with a stranger. Jiraiya, for his part, kept on eating his fish, subtly observing the quiet blonde in the meantime. While the Sannin didn't bother checking on him much these last few years, Jiraiya did remember that the kid was quite the hyperactive one in the academy. Naruto, then, realized that the old man was looking at him. So, I don't think I've ever seen you around. You must be a shinobi based on that headband and the scroll on your back. Jiraiya also remembered Naruto being more aloof in the academy and not as attentive on details like this. The Sandame did say that Naruto has improved. Naruto then saw the strange man behave even more strangely if possible, standing up and forming a kabuki pose. I am not just a shinobi, kid. I am the shinobi, the high and mighty Gamma Sannin, Jiraiya. Jiraiya was counting on various possible reactions based on his boisterous introduction. However, when Naruto just blinked twice unimpressed, before staring at Jiraiya, the Gamma Sannin stopped posing and awkwardly cleared his throat. Naruto, for his part, became quite confused. If he was speaking the truth about being one of the Sannin, then Naruto truly wondered if all the Sannin were this weird. Since he didn't get to meet Orochimaru, Jiraiya was actually the first Sannin he laid his eyes on. Are all the Sannin like you, then? Jiraiya snorted at the comparison. No, I am one of a kind. I see. Well, it's nice meeting you. I will have to get back to my training now. Naruto bowed slightly in respect and then turned his back on Jiraiya, but the Sannin quickly appeared in front of Naruto. Wow there, what's the rush? I didn't even get your name, kid. Oh right, sorry, Uzumaki Naruto. Now excuse me. Jiraiya just placed his hand on Naruto's shoulder before the genin tried to turn again. There you go, trying to flee again. So, why are you training so hard for? Naruto sighed at the strange insistence but decided to humor the old man for a bit. Perhaps after asking his questions, Jiraiya would leave him alone. I am training for the Chunin exam finals and my first fight is against a Hyuga 1 year my senior. Oh, that's interesting. If you want some pointers, just ask and the gallant Jiraiya shall provide. You don't need to bother with me, I bet you must have more important things to do. Thanks for the offer, though. Once more, Naruto tried leaving, but once more Jiraiya stopped him, this time with a heavy sigh. He didn't believe that Naruto would openly refuse help, especially not from him of all people. It kind of stung the perverted Sannin to realize that the genin just didn't want much to do with him, though he should have realized the consequence of not showing up to check on him much. Still, it couldn't be said that Jiraiya just gave up that easily. You know Gaki, many shinobi out there would thank the heavens to be tutored by the one who taught the Yondaime Hokage. This time it got the desired effect as he had finally got the kid's attention. Wow, seriously, you taught the Yondaime? Before meeting the Nadaime, Naruto worshipped the Yondaime Hokage. Haha, sure did. Now are you interested in me helping you? I guess, it's just that I don't want to focus on something that it would take too long to learn and master. After Hyuga Neji, there are also other fights to plan for. Jiraiya nodded in approval at the kid's concern. It's a good thinking indeed to focus on mastering what you already know, instead of trying to learn something new in such a short amount of time. Well, I happen to have a nifty little technique to teach you. It's easy to learn and you can use in plenty of situations. Jiraiya could tell that Naruto's chakra capacity was high enough, which surprised him. Jiraiya at first wanted to teach the kid to use the fox's chakra for this, but it wasn't needed, at least not right now. It's called Kuchio's no Jutsu, summoning technique. Naruto's mouth opened slightly and Jiraiya could have sworn that a little drool came out. Really? You are teaching me the Kuchios, but you have to have a summoning contract for that, right? The Sannin was caught by surprise that the kid knew about this technique, before he got to explain what it is. Oh, you seem to know your stuff, kid, interesting. Yes, you need to form a summoning contract with an animal species and through space and time, you summon the animal to aid you through ninjutsu. It just so happens that I have the contract with the toads, just like I gave it to the Yondaime, when he was your age. The glint in Naruto's eyes at the prospect of having the same contract as the Yondaime was simply too much to pass by. So, how do I start? Jiraiya smiled and sacrificed some blood from his finger, before going through a small sequence of hand seals. When Jiraiya slammed his hand on the ground, Naruto focused on the written kanji that spread on the floor, before the Sannin was enveloped in smoke. Instantly, Naruto's sensor caught another presence and when the smoke settled, he was in awe when he saw Jiraiya standing on top of a large red toad carrying a scroll on its mouth. The toad's tongue then expanded and the scroll was handed to Naruto. Open that scroll and sign your name in blood, Naruto. The genin did as instructed and opened it to see many empty slots with only 2 names written. Naruto did as instructed and opened it to see many slots already signed. Quickly doing as instructed, he bit his finger and signed his name with blood. Jiraiya admitted to being quite enthused about the kid's first attempt. Usually, the Kuchios required a considerable amount of chakra just to summon the regular-sized toads. For Naruto to for instance summon the giant toads, he would need the aid of the fox's chakra for that. However, there are many toads that Naruto could summon with the chakra he has right now at his disposal. Now, perform the hand seal sequence and release a strong amount of chakra at once. The blonde genin looked back at his sensei for the day with a question mark clearly on his face. What is it, Gaki? You said just now, a strong amount of chakra. But could you give me an estimate of the necessary amount? For instance, the amount of AB rank ninjutsu would suffice. Now, Jiraiya understood why the kid was drawing the attention of the other teachers. Wow, that would be a nice amount. Yeah, you could use that much and summon a kick-ass toad. Go for it. Naruto nodded and went through the hand seals sequence he saw Jiraiya perform, before slamming his stretched hand on the ground. Just like the white-haired Sannin, an assortment of kanji spread around Naruto's hand, before a sizable smoke erupted around him, making Jiraiya smirk knowingly. Yeah, good genes, indeed. While he didn't know which toad would appear, he knew the kid's first attempt to be successful. When the smoke was released, Jiraiya whistled in great appreciation. Naruto blinked twice at the sudden appearance, before he looked quite ecstatic as well. For as this toad in Jiraiya's mind was similar in appearance to one of his favorites named Gamahiro, though instead of having 2 swords strapped on its back, this toad carried a single white-handled katana sword strapped on a black obi. And this toad was perhaps the same size as the toad that Jiraiya was standing on right now. Wow, Gaki, are you sure you're just a genin? Jiraiya asked in a sincere but baffled question and Naruto couldn't help but scratch his head at the praise. Jiraiya then chuckled at his reaction. So you're our new summoner, huh? What's your name? Naruto then turned to the animal next to him and bowed in respect, earning a respectable nod from the animal who crossed its arms. Plus, the toad's eyes landed on Naruto's own sword as well. "Ah, Uzumaki Naruto, a pleasure to meet you. Call me Gamatsurugi, sword, a pleasure to meet you as well, Uzumaki Naruto. I see you're a practitioner of the sword. Interesting. Feel free to call me anytime you need assistance." Naruto accepted, before Gamatsurugi released himself back to wherever the toads came from. Jiraiya had also released the toad that carried the scroll and landed safely on the ground, while he observed an introspective Naruto. A chuckle escaped from the perverted Sanin's mouth as he then turned his back on Naruto and was about to leave. "Ah, Jiraiya-sama, I appreciate you teaching me the Kuchiyos, thanks a lot." Jiraiya always prided himself of being a pervert and able to get a rise out of everyone for his perks. However, the genuine expression of appreciation on Naruto's face was too much for Jiraiya. It somewhat made the perverted Sanin remind himself of the Yondaime Hokage. A genius in the making, quite like Naruto is and also respectful to others, which is a surprise, considering that, to his knowledge, the kid pretty much had no one to raise him, at least not properly. "Stop with the sama, there Gaki. Call me Jiraiya and you're welcome. I could give you more if you wish. The night is still young after all." Naruto smiled at the offer and appreciated. "Wow, this is too much already. But thank you, once more, Jiraiya. I still need to train more." Jiraiya this time didn't offer any resistance as he saw the kid wave goodbye and run up the water stream, just as the sky turned orange. The Sanin found the kid quite intriguing as he remembered Hiruzen's words the other day about how Naruto was surprising everyone with his abilities. For him to grasp the concept of the Kuchiyos so fast means that the kid must have at least a basic to intermediate knowledge of Fuinjutsu and space-time ninjutsu. Plus, the fact that Naruto had summoned a warrior toad on his first try showed Jiraiya that the kid has a firm grasp of his own chakra capacity, which was even more surprising. Having not only an abundance of his own chakra, plus the colossal chakra from the Kyuubi no Yoko, meant that the kid would find chakra control to be his dire weakness. Now, the perverted Sanin found himself quite curious about what else Naruto could do. "Initially, I was staying because sensei ordered me to, but now I'm actually curious to see the Gaki's matches." 1 week later. With only 2 weeks left for the finals, Naruto had opted to change a couple of things in his training regimen. The reason being that today was the day that Kurenai would introduce him to his Kenjutsu tutor, and he figured that keeping his stamina at optimal levels was paramount for a physically demanding training. Just remembering the level of concentration needed to train the art of the sword under the Nadaime was tortuous enough. As such, he now found himself dressed in only his pants as he took a seat on top of Gamatsurugi's head, while both calmly meditated beneath one of the many waterfalls located in the outskirts of the village. Naruto had often summoned his newfound partner ever since he learned how to summon from Jiraiya. They would train together as Naruto found out that Gamatsurugi not only was a sword practitioner but a sweeting user as well, as all toads tends to be. Hell, he was even able to expel oil from his mouth if needed be, which was quite the tool to have. Despite him not knowing any Kaiden techniques, there was always the nasty explosive tag to use to ignite the oil beam. Oh, the possibilities. As such, right now, as he calmly meditated, Naruto's consciousness slowly drifted from the outside world into the inside world. Ever since he learned this exercise from the Nadaime, Naruto had continuously passed his chakra through each and every chakra coil inside his body. Doing this allowed him to ease the strain both in his chakra as well as his mind as he focused solely on the feel of his chakra. Right now, there were no Chunin exams, no mission to focus on, no skill he needed to grasp, nothing. Just the continuous and relaxing feeling of passing his chakra throughout his tenketsu. So immersed was him that when Naruto next opened his eyes, he was not at the lake with the waterfall, but rather inside what appeared to be a rather creepy and dark sewage system of some kind with pipes on the walls and water reaching his ankles. He could see blue energy passing through the pipes at a fast speed. When he touched one of the pipes, familiarity overcame him at the feel of his own chakra. However, Naruto frowned once he looked at the pipes from the adjacent wall. There was energy passing through those as well, but it was red, not blue. As soon as he touched the pipes with the red energy, Naruto was surprised to hear a beastly growl nearby. What the hell is that? The genin started walking slowly towards the sound as he wondered what could possibly be. Considering that he is somehow inside his own mind, since he had felt his own chakra, Naruto shuddered to believe this could be what he was thinking. Despite the Nadaime telling Naruto that he was the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi no Yoko, this was the first time that Naruto ever came close to knowing just what that precisely entailed. And as he walked through the sewage walls, he then stepped inside a vast room that had an enormous-looking cage in the middle. Looking up, he saw the pipes from before going inside the cage as well. His eyes also focused on the single seal parchment that stood in the middle of the cage. He could also hear the heavy growl inside as well, and he gulped in fright at the possibility of seeing the very creature that made his life a living hell for the first years of his life. True to his fear, the same red energy appeared inside the cage, followed by long teeth and bloody red eyes that looked at Naruto promising bloody murder. "Su, I finally get to meet my jailer, huh? Ever since the Nadaime Hokage told you about me, I truly expected you to appear sooner." Naruto gasped at the mention of the name, before wondering just how much the fox knows. Truth be told, this was the first time Naruto was having a conversation with someone about the very reason why he had evolved so much. The fox, for his part, merely laughed at the surprise, already knowing deep down about the human being's true nature. "Huh, what, so you keep on using everyone around you, meanwhile you lied to all of them about what truly happened to you 3 years ago, interesting." "No, actually, not interesting, it's quite the very foundation of you humans, to hold on to lies and deceit. Truly makes me hate your species beyond measure." Naruto recovered fast when he heard the accusation coming from the gigantic fox. "What are you talking about? I don't use anyone, and I certainly did not lie to anyone." Kyuubi just chuckled at the denial. "Imbecile, you cannot hide from me, I see through you. Everyone is so surprised and so astonished about your so-called growth, your so-called skills, how pathetic. Instead of showing everyone what you can do, you hide it like a worthless human. You complain about the old geezer Hokage for not telling you about me, but you also keep secrets from him, from everyone. So tell me, you still naively believe you don't take advantage of your peers, of your sensei, especially that woman who seems so eager to teach genjutsu to you. And they say I'm the demon. I don't use Kurenai sensei, I helped her save Yakumo after she helped me with genjutsu. So stop with your accusation here." Naruto was finding this conversation very annoying indeed. True, that Naruto kept his real growth from everyone, but that's what it means to be a shinobi. To reveal everything you can do means ridding the advantage of surprise. Though, Naruto was finding that perhaps the fox cared little about the workings of the shinobi mindset. "What's more pathetic is to see your denial, but I actually grew tired of looking at your worthless face, human. Speak your mind, here and now." Naruto took a step back as the fox started screaming at him now. "What you crave is quite clear, it's what you all crave, you and everyone else. It's power, isn't it? You want my chakra to be stronger. You wish to demand I give you my chakra. Come on, human, speak." "I don't want anything." No sooner had Naruto said his piece and quite vigorously, the fox stopped his oppressive nature and turned to look at his jailer more closely. "Oh, what nonsense are you speaking? I know how much you desire to be strong. You're a fool if you think you can fool me." Naruto tried to hold his ground, but this amount of killing intent was at least 100 times what both the Nadaime and Zabuza could produce combined. Still, the blonde tried holding his own. They were inside his own mind after all. "I meant what I said, Kyuubi. Everything I conquered I did with my own sweat, my own chakra. Sure, I had help. I won't deny that I did. The Nadaime helped shape my foundation, since the academy wouldn't even bother looking at me. It was thanks to him that I am where I am right now. Without a good foundation, everything else falls apart. And the others helped me as well. Asuma sensei, Kurenai sensei, Kasuki Ojisan, and even Jiraiya with the summoning just now. It's thanks to them, I am now more complete, and thanks to them I am able to grow stronger now, using my own strength from here on out." This time, human and demon looked at each other's eyes, while the fox growled in defiance at Naruto's words. Still, Naruto needed to address the elephant in the room, and he did so by looking down as his own image looked back at him from the water reflection. "I don't know why you are in here or why the Yondaime placed you here, no one so far has decided to explain it to me and, quite frankly, I fear that I won't enjoy it when the truth finally comes, you know. I do know it sucks for you to be trapped here, instead of outside. I also do know and feel the hatred that everyone has for me because of you. I can't say I have all the answers here. I don't even know if you wish for me to use your chakra or not. I don't even know why the hell I was chosen to become your warden. Kyuubi, this time, only kept his usual growl, while hearing Naruto speak. As of right now, the best I can say is that I hope that we at least talk about this more often and together come up with something, moving forward. Talk? Huh, that's precious. Naruto also found himself concurring with an easing smile, despite the situation. Hehe, I know it's not much. But at least it's better than me coming in here and demanding your chakra, isn't it? Hardly any better. Just by looking at your blue eyes and blonde hair makes me want to rip your body to shreds. So, if you don't wish for my power, then be gone from my sight. Before Naruto could even respond, wondering what his eyes and hair color has to do with anything, the fox had thrown him out by force. When Naruto next opened his eyes, he found himself breathless and he was shaking a bit, much to his own surprise. Another surprise came when he opened his eyes and saw Kurenai-sensei standing close to the shore together with a long purple-haired Anbu woman by her side, both of them facing his direction. Deciding to wonder about the conversation he had with the fox for another time, Naruto stood up from Gumatsurugi's head and released the summon after appreciating the help. Meanwhile, Kurenai and the Anbu were busy conversing amongst each other, as Naruto waved at her from the lake. The genin crossed the lake in no time and grabbed the top of his blue outfit, before hurling it on top of his shoulder. Hi there Naruto, I didn't know you can summon toads. The genin scratched his head at the accusation laced in Kurenai's words. Well, I couldn't until just a week ago when I met Jiraiya. He decided to give me the contract to summon toads. Naruto found it strange that both Kurenai and Yugo groaned at the mention of the Sannin's name. Little to his knowledge, pretty much every Chunin and above Kunoichi had been victimized by the pervert's attempts of peeking. Why, what's wrong? Nothing, Kurenai responded with a sigh. It's just that let's say that his hobbies leave much to be desired and let's leave it at that. Naruto saw the female Anbu nodding along and then Naruto remembered just how he came to know the Sannin. Oh, yeah, when I first saw him, he was peeking at 3 women bathing and he was giggling, now I understand. Still, the boy caught the trap he ended up falling into when he saw the ire coming from the brunette sensei. It was just him peeking, Naruto. Naruto had quickly raised both hands at Kurenai to appease her. The Anbu was also discreetly raising her own killing intent. Wah, no, I didn't do anything. I was training nearby and went to the river when those women were bathing to catch some fishes for lunch. Jiraiya was already there looking at them with his monocular. Huh, I will give you the benefit of the doubt for now, just don't follow in Jiraiya-sama's example. Clearing her throat, Kurenai then introduced Naruto to her Anbu friend. Well, like I promised, I managed to find you a Kenjutsu user to tutor you for the exams, though I can't tell you her name as you probably already know why. Naruto nodded and bowed at the female Anbu. Yes, I understand, though I kind of recognize the mask and the long purple hair. For what it's worth, I'm sorry for making you guys chase me around the village all those times. Kurenai looked at the Anbu, surprised to hear a chuckle, followed by her friend's comeback. Yeah, it was quite a hassle to chase a 9-year-old throughout the village, for sure, I didn't sign into Anbu for this. Though, it was quite irritating when you managed to evade me on occasion. The Anbu placed both hands on her hips and even inclined her body in a false accusatory mode, though Naruto didn't sense any form of malice coming from her. Kurenai found it quite humorous to see the interaction. Still, it's been a couple of weeks since she last saw him and she could tell that he has been training vigorously. Well, once again, I apologize and I appreciate you taking time out of your hefty schedule to help a genin out. Kurenai asked for my help, said that you're quite a gifted student, always eager to learn. Though, I won't be able to accompany you for long, I can still give you some pointers here and there. I understand, with the Chunin exams finals approaching, security is a major concern. Though, I don't know how I should address you. Anbu-san, Neko-san, Neko-sensei. Oh Neko-sensei, I like the sound of that. I never had a student before. Kurenai by this point figured that she would leave the pair alone for now, so she bid them goodbye, saying that she needed to meet with Shino in his compound. "Oh Kurenai-sensei, do you know about Hinata? How are her injuries?" The brunette sensei turned to answer him. Naruto has been training ever since the end of the second phase and felt guilty for not checking on his teammates. "Yes, she is much better now. She comes to my house quite often nowadays to hang out with Yakumo. We will all cheer for you in the finals, Naruto-kun. So train hard and make us proud." "Will do. Thank you, Kurenai-sensei." The sensei then bid both Naruto and Yugao goodbye, leaving them alone. "Okay then Naruto, please put back on your clothes and let us begin." Naruto muttered a quick apology and Yugao waved him off. "Now, I won't bother trying to imprint a style on you. We don't have much time for that and I don't believe this is what you're looking for. Instead, I will attempt to correct any flaws I see in your movements while we spar. First, show me your ninjutsu." Naruto, now fully clothed, showed the sword while Yugao inspected it from the hilt to the tip of the blade. "Okay, good, you take good care of your weapon. That's an important part and I'm pleased that my first student understands that. Now, let's stop wasting both of our time here." The training ground then became alive with the noise of exertion from both parties and the sound of steel meeting steel as Yugao focused on Naruto's footing as well as his blade reach, giving him pointers here and there. Last week before the finals With 1 week left for the finals and with Neko back in Anbu coordinating the village security, Naruto now found himself wandering close to the Nara compound. As he came back to the village, he managed to make a quick visit to Kurenai's house, knowing that Hinata and Yakumo were there as well. He was thrilled to see that she was almost completely healed after her fight with Neji. Hinata had expressed her concerns for Naruto perhaps taking his fight against Neji too far because of Neji's words to her in the second phase. Even if Naruto had found them distasteful, he was proud of her for giving the elder Hyuga quite the fight. So, right now, Naruto had stepped inside the Nara's main house and saw his teammate and their sensei locked in a shogi match, much to Naruto's chuckle. So this was Shikamaru's idea of training, in the end. Not that he was surprised. Either Shika, Asuma-sensei, both players looked away from the shogi board and greeted the blonde, before Naruto took a seat close to them. Asuma had made his move, before turning to his other student. "So Naruto, I trust that your training was fruitful these last 3 weeks. I had a nice chat with Jiraiya-sama and he gave me much praise about your accomplishments." Naruto chuckled at that, before Shikamaru looked at his friend. Wow, Naruto was tutored by Jiraiya of the Sannin. Shikamaru knew that he would eventually face Naruto if he wins against Temari. Though, if Shika had any doubts that he could win against his teammate, he now firmly believed it would be best to simply withdraw. The Nara Brainiac had already thought of various scenarios for this exact battle and in none of those, he could see himself winning. "I wouldn't say tutored, exactly. He just taught me one technique, that's all. We spent less than a day together." Asuma flinched at the move that Shikamaru made, before addressing Naruto. "Kurenai-sensei also told me about your other tutor. Oh don't worry, I won't tell to Shikamaru who or what you trained in. Don't bother. I will count my blessings by passing the first round." Shikamaru replied, before placing the final piece. "This is my win, Asuma-sensei." The Jonin-sensei groaned in displeasure at losing once more. "Yeah, I guess you did." Naruto laughed, as he saw the Nara yawn after the match and walk inside his house, but not before addressing Naruto. "Naruto, after you and Asuma-sensei trained today, my nagging mother told me to invite you to dinner." The blonde genin nodded. "Sure thing, tell Yoshino Obasan I will be here for dinner." "Thanks." Shikamaru then closed the door, before Asuma got up and gave Naruto one of his trench knives. "Okay Naruto, for this last week, we shall focus on your wind manipulation. The goal here is to focus both on power and control." Before Naruto asked for more clarification, he gasped once Asuma's own trench knife hummed to life in an explosion of wind chakra. Normally, the wind chakra would only surround the weapon, but right now the energy has grown so much that it resembles more like a sword made of wind. "I will warn you beforehand that this will place great strain on your chakra coils. But for you to learn the more powerful and wider range wind techniques, you will need to get used to this feeling. Now, try to imitate what I'm doing. The blonde nodded and then focused wind chakra through the knife he was holding. Asuma approved as he saw the kid start small and then slowly add more chakra. He could see Naruto flinch and spasm on occasion. Wind chakra needs constant training and refinement. Like Asuma said, the wind change in chakra nature splits chakra in two and grinds them together. However, adding more power to it, it's easy to lose focus on containment, hence the reason for the pain Naruto was feeling right now. And Asuma smirked at that, knowing about his own bad experiences with it, before getting accustomed to it. Truth be told, the bearded Jonin never did focus on wider range techniques with Futon, but he got the feeling that with Naruto's chakra, his student could become a powerhouse. That's it, keep this up Naruto. Try keeping like this for 20 minutes and rest for 10. For my satisfaction, you'll be repeating this cycle at least 10 times. Wow, Asuma-sensei. That's kind of a vicious training. Asuma chuckled at the pained expression on his students. Consider it payback for ditching your sensei, now stop complaining. Naruto, despite the pain, managed to sweat drop at the accusation. Yeah, well, I deserved that, Asuma waited 3 weeks for this as he kept quiet while hearing Jiraiya, Kurenai and even Yugao relaying about Naruto's training, praising him through it all. And since their training was happening close to the Nara compound, the entire Nara family heard it. Shikamaru groaned at his teammate's drive, while he had to listen to his mother saying that she wished that he would have half of Naruto's desire to improve. Meanwhile, Shikamaru's father Shikaku simply snickered both at Naruto for complaining about the pain and Shikamaru for trying to cover his ears while his nagging mother yelling at him. While Naruto trained his ass off, other genin were also doing the exact same thing. Like Kakashi promised, he had focused on training Sakura and has even helped her develop her affinity for Doton ninjutsu, while slightly encouraging her to use her perfect chakra control for genjutsu. Sasuke had even approached them and helped, despite his initial protest of wanting Kakashi to train him as well. The Uchiha still didn't swallow what Naruto did to him by using Sasuke's hatred for his brother against the Uchiha, and it took Kakashi some time to explain that Naruto didn't actually use his brother's image, but rather enforced Sasuke's worst nightmare. Still, the Uchiha now wished to have a rematch more than ever with Naruto. Sakura sighed in dismay at that. She wondered what would have happened to Sasuke's ego had Naruto-senpai truly gone all out in that fight. Neji and Tenten trained together after the Hyuga was healed. At first, Neji felt enraged that Hinata gave him so much trouble, but then he came to his senses. After all, he was pleased that his cousin was taking things seriously. Despite being a year older, Neji knew not to underestimate his next opponent. Lee was actually the only one who witnessed Naruto's fight against the Uchiha, and despite his teammate still in the hospital recuperating from his injuries, Lee had explained with quite the enthusiasm how Naruto had defeated the Uchiha using Genjutsu, Fuinjutsu and Kenjutsu. Neji knew from his cousin how much Naruto influenced herself moving forward. And despite Hinata apologizing to Neji for not betraying her own teammate by saying what he can do, Hinata had an entire list of good things to say about him. As such, with the exams approaching, the genin from Konoha felt themselves ready for the next step towards the yearned promotion. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like, comment and subscribe, as well as checking out the author on fanfiction.net.